Hospital porter's pride and dignity stop the New World Order. Welcome to her Panwo TV. Well, it's almost the end of 2016, and you know what? Disclosure hasn't happened, has it? I'm sure I would have noticed if it had. Now, the focus for all of this year has been on the US presidential election and the possible election to the White House of Hillary Clinton. That hasn't happened, has it? Instead, we've got Donald Trump. And of course, all this focus has been on Hillary Clinton. Everything that the primary people within the UFO Disclosure movement have said is concerned with John Podesta, Hillary Clinton, the campaign surrounding Hillary Clinton, and the prospect of her becoming the next US president. This is now something that is not going to happen. But the question remains, what about Donald Trump? Is it all over, or could he become the disclosure president? Interesting question. We shall see.
So let us begin with all the Exopolitics news. What's been in the headlines of the UFO world since the last UFO disclosure video? And we have to begin with the sad story of Max Spiers. Max Spiers, which I talked about in the last film in this series, now has had a coroner's inquest, or at least that inquest has just begun. Probably there'll be some more details after this film has been uploaded. But this article here is part of the news coverage of that. UFO expert Max Spiers vomited black fluid before his death, inquest hears. Interesting headline. And we had another one actually. Someone actually sent me another headline, which was from an article, I think, which I'm not sure which paper it was. It was one of the red tops, but it said UFO fan killed by black bile. That was another one of the tabloid newspapers. UFO fan. I hate the way they say that, UFO fan. I mean, I've talked about this before, haven't I? You know, whether you use the word fan or something like that, to belittle people's interest in this very essential subject. Anyway, this is from the Daily Telegraph, owned by Adam Bolt. Quote, "The death earlier this year of Max Spiers, a British ufologist, has continued to prompt intense speculation among conspiracy theorists." Conspiracy. You see, I knew that word phrase, conspiracy theorists, would come in, and I know, as I've said before, I've talked about this previously before. We know that it's literally true. However, they use it as a derogatory term. That's how they use it. This is how they mean it. Anyway, I'll read on. As an inquest in Kent this week heard, he vomited 2 litres of black fluid shortly before he died. Spiers, 39, originally from Canterbury, was found dead at Anne Friend's apartment. That's a silly spelling mistake there. Anne Friend's apartment in Warsaw in July. The friend was Monica Duval, who has been questioned by the police. She's now a prime suspect. It could be, I don't know, I mean, maybe she was just caught up in the middle of all this, I don't know. We'll find out later. But I mean, I've spoken before about Max, about how I didn't jump to conclusions, and about how I believe he was murdered, and that was after a very calm and non-impulsive look at the evidence. This is not to say that I believe Monica had anything to do with it. I'm just saying that I do believe he was murdered. I shall read on. Local authorities initially stated that he died from natural causes, but his mother, Vanessa Bates, approached the media to express doubts over the verdict. As an inquest into Max Spiers' death opened in Canterbury last Monday, Mrs. Bates told reporters, "It's been a long time in coming, but I am just relieved that at last something is happening and there is a proper investigation and inquest." In a statement, Coroner's Investigation Officer Caroline O'Donnell told this inquest, "Mr. Spiers became ill with a high temperature and was weak. According to the Kentish Gazette the following day, Mr. Spiers vomited 2 litres of black fluid." Quote, this is the investigator talking then. The friend called a doctor who attempted resuscitation before pronouncing him dead. Close quote. A few days before his death, Mr. Spiers sent his mother a text message saying, "If anything happens to me, investigate." Mrs. Bates, an English teacher, said in October, Max was making a name for himself in the world of conspiracy theorists and had been invited to speak at a conference in Poland in July. Now that's true, actually. Max had been speaking at a Targeted Individuals conference in which Miles Johnston, Kieran Lee Perrin, and a couple of other people spoke there. I would have attended myself if I could. This is true, but I don't. This is it could mean what Vanessa is saying is that Max has attention may have been drawn towards him. He was due to speak at the Basis Project conference in August, which I was also on stage at, and he couldn't make it because sadly he died a couple of weeks before then. Anyway, Vanessa continues talking in the article. He was staying with a woman who he had not known for long, and she told me how she found him dead on the sofa. But I think Max had been digging in some dark places, and I fear that somebody wanted him dead. I agree. I mean, he was digging into dark places. This article has a link to a video by Tajinder Gill, who's a researcher, and he's got a series of radio stations. He's got a series of radio interviews called Taj Investigation. On the 13th of October, he uploaded an interview with Vanessa talking about her son. Coroner Alan Blunsden told the inquest he was waiting to receive a report from Polish authorities that he hopes to have Mr. Spears' laptop and mobile phone forensically analysed. The inquest has been adjourned until February the 22nd. Right. Earlier this year, the author and journalist Nick Pope, who investigated UFO phenomena for the Ministry of Defence in the early 90s, said on Twitter, "The death of Max Spears was a tragedy, but having run the US government's UFO project, I promise we don't go around killing UFO researchers." Right. I saw this on Twitter, actually, because I do follow Nick on there. Well, Nick, you ran the government's UFO project. You were not part of any kind of assassination team, and if you weren't, then why would they tell you? And it's you know as well as I do that your government does kill people. It does happen. I mean, it's a standard technique of espionage. If Max really was involved in something deep and serious, of course they want him out the way. And Nick, you have to face it is a possibility. You really do. Now, yesterday I attended an event. I attended the Basis Project's Christmas Bash, which was partly a social event, but also Michael Shrimpton QC spoke there as well. Now, this guy he's a retired barrister. He recently served time in jail too, just like James Casbolt. He was in jail, and he said he knows this judge, who is this guy, Alan Blunsden, who's the coroner chairing the inquest. He says he describes this judge as someone who was parachuted in. And in legal terms, that means he's a convenient guy who they can use to. If the government want a certain verdict, they could put the right guy in there. And he didn't actually accuse Alan Blunsden of anything, but he just said that these guys tend to be being blackmailed. He said it kind of in a very funny way. But he said maybe they're basically gay and they're married, or bisexual or something like that, or they're into S&M or something, and there's photographs that prove it, and they control them through vice, basically through vice and blackmail. So, well, anyway, we'll see what happens after February the 22nd. I'll make another update on the future video. Obviously, this inquest is going to be a long one. It seems to me like they're dragging it out, like they did the one into the death of Nurse Jacinta Thuldana, which was really delayed and dragged out as much as possible. But I think, like I said before, we should be more than suspicious of what happened to Max. I hope he gets justice. I hope his mother has the condolences she deserves. I'm just really sorry this happened. And Sarah, his ex-partner, she has my deepest sympathy. Oh dear, now what on earth is this? Yes, this is People of Earth. This is from the Turner Broadcasting System in America. And it says here that it's going to be gracing your cable menu with a new sitcom about alien abduction. A sitcom? Oh, God. Oh. And it says here, the good news is, for those who are dealing with the ET contact experience in your own life, you will have an opportunity to laugh at your circumstance if that will help. The bad news, everyone else will have the opportunity to laugh at your circumstance too. And this is, I've not seen it. I've not seen this program. If any viewers have actually seen this program, let me know what you think about it in the comments box. But But of course they do make a farce out of this, so my hopes are not high. But anyway, this was created by David Jenkins, and is about a support group for alien abductees. And there was a pilot episode called The Group in May 2015. It's now a 10-episode series starting in January this year. It was ordered in January this year, and now it's premiered in October the 31st. Halloween, wow. And it's going to get a second series as well. It's already been arranged that there'll be a second series of this program. So, well, I mean, like I said, I've not seen it, but looking at the blurb and stuff like that, it looks like another. Well, it's what Admiral Hillenkatter called official ridicule and denial, and I feel for people who've had this abduction experience, and well, I mean, for reasons I've said in the previous show, I'm concerned about what's happened to me in my life and what might have happened to me which I don't remember, and I don't want this kind of attention either if it turns out that I have had experiences like this myself. This is an extremely serious matter, and it should not be treated lightly. Yet they treat it lightly, and as I said before, there's a limit to how bad a TV program can be by accident. This goes for documentaries. It also goes for various fictional portrayals of this event, and you've got to ask yourself why. Why are they making a big laugh out of it? Well, isn't it obvious? Okay, I just want to do a shout out. I've only just started watching this guy's channel, but he looks very, very good indeed. And it is affiliated with the Paradigm Research Group, Adnan Ademovic, UFO Hub. He's got a number of narratives here and a number of other interviews about UFOs and disclosure issues. Please do check him out. Looks very good. He's got interviews with people like Richard Dolan. He's got a number of other insights as well. I'm just working my way through his catalogue. Check that out. Okay, now we turn to WikiLeaks. And of course, the good news about WikiLeaks is that since the last program, which I made, where I specifically discussed this, Grant Cameron, who is a very, very well-known exopolitician, he's the world's leading expert on the connection between the extraterrestrial issue and the tenure of US presidents, is producing an ongoing narrative about the Podesta emails on his website, which is called whitehouseuFO.blogspot.co.uk. Now, the emails tend to be from various people, and most of the people John Podesta has talked about are people I brought up in the previous film, and they include people from the media. I mean, George Knapp is mentioned here, who you know from Coast to Coast AM. Getting the media interested in this subject, and especially getting a meeting arranged between John Podesta and Dr. Edgar Mitchell. Now, Dr. Edgar Mitchell is a major exopolitical figure. He's a former Apollo astronaut, and some people he's a controversial figure within the community. I know that not everyone trusts him. Maybe some of that distrust is justified. Andrew Johnson in particular has talked about Dr. Edgar Mitchell, and he thinks we should treat him with caution. I think so too. Sadly, he's passed away now, so there's no new information from Dr. Mitchell. But there was ever since 2008, when President Obama was elected, John Podesta got his first major position in government. Interestingly, just as an aside, if Russia was really hacking US elections, how come we got 8 years of Obama? But there's lots of attempts by John Podesta to set up meetings. Lots of attempts by various people to set up meetings with Edgar Mitchell and John Podesta. Leslie Kean is another person who comes into this. Leslie Kean has written a book called UFOs, Generals, Pilots and Government Officials Go on the Record, and it's worth noting that Robert Fish has NASA contacts who wrote a book called Hornet Plus 3, The Story of the Apollo 11 Recovery. Now, the USS Hornet is an aircraft carrier. It acted as a reception centre when Apollo 11 came back to Earth, and they splashed down into the ocean from the moon, or not from the moon, as the case may be. Now, John Podesta, I'm going to say more about this later, but I've talked about it briefly before. John Podesta is the centre of this, and is the centre of this particular issue at the moment, and still is, and has been. John Podesta was the campaign manager for Hillary Clinton's run for president, which turned out to be unsuccessful. But he's also been named by the same source, WikiLeaks, as being involved in possible very, very serious crimes relating to what's known as Pizzagate. So that's something that does concern me. And I'll say more about that later. But as you go through these emails, now there are more emails from Terry Mitchell, who I've mentioned before. Terry Mitchell is a person involved in film production and has been communicating with Terry Mansfield. Terry Mansfield has been communicating with John Podesta about the involvement of the media in UFO advocacy. Right, well, that's great, isn't it? What, like people of Earth, which I've not seen it, but well, let's face it, I mean, the way UFOs are portrayed by the mainstream media does make me suspicious, to say the least, that something strange is going on. So, I mean, not that I would necessarily trust this Terry Mansfield, or whatever he or she represents, as being any better than any previous people who've spoken about this issue. Among those named as correspondents of John Podesta and relating to UFOs are Jennifer Palmieri. Now, she is director of the communications for the 2016 Hillary presidential campaign, where she handles the candidate messages, media relations and troubleshooting. She left the Obama administration with Podesta in February 2015. She previously served as White House communications director for US President Barack Obama. Prior to her service at the White House, she served as the president of the Center for American Progress Action Fund. So basically, she's a very close colleague of John Podesta. The Center for American Progress is a liberal left-wing think tank, which is kind of maybe a left-wing equivalent of Project for a New American Century or something. And this is one of the people involved. Now, there could be many reasons why these two people would exchange information. Jennifer Palmieri is a close colleague, but they were discussing UFOs very closely in this presidential election campaign. Now, this is F. Shakir, who is vice president of the Center for American Progress. There was these are just names, email names. D. Ledger, senior vice president for communications and strategy at the Center for American Progress. Sarah Latham, chief of staff to the chairman of the Hillary Clinton campaign. Special assistants to White House Chief of Staff John Podesta, and Deputy Assistant to President and Deputy Director of Presidential Scheduling, 1996 to 2000. There's someone called Ken Guide, Senior Fellow at the Center for American Progress, specializing in civil liberties and terrorism. Ian Milhisia, who is Policy Analyst at the Center for American Progress, the think tank created by Podesta. Podesta created the Center for American Progress. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Anyway, go to Grant Cameron's website, which I told you about, where he talks about this. And he's also got this other website here. This is his old website, presidentialufo.com, which is also very interesting indeed. And it's worth looking at because it's got some very up-to-date information. So check that out, ladies and gentlemen. And Stephen, of course, he had to be involved in this himself. On the 18th of August, he wrote to John Podesta, and this is WikiLeaks. Steve published this himself, but he said, "Mr. Podesta, it is certain that I won't imitate Steve's voice. Sorry. It is certain that this email contains nothing you have not already considered in depth. Nevertheless, it needs to be conveyed. Any reasonable person would think it too early to predict whether Secretary Clinton would be the next President of the United States. Our elections now start too early and cost too much, but that is now the norm. Based upon input from multiple sources, it is increasingly apparent to me her candidacy is in doubt, which is not to judge whether the onslaught arranged against her is fair. That's not my call. Truth is, I do not care one way or the other. What matters for the advocacy movement in which I am involved is whether or not the American people are finally told the truth about the extraterrestrial presence. That truth must come from the President, and the President is Barack Obama. Whatever the future holds for Mrs. Clinton, at this time she needs very much a major change of subject. An issue so significant transcends all others. That issue, of course, is well known to you. The media is very close to breaking the Clinton ET connection wide open. With that in mind, the equation would seem simple. Wait for the media to arrive and be dragged into the truth process on the ET issue, thus reinforcing on a massive scale the meme that plagues her, or preempt the media and proactively speak to the issue and perhaps transform the meme overnight. I have perhaps one quote that may one day find its way into Bartlett's. If you choose to speak truth to power, it is not enough to select those truths which are convenient, safe, or self-serving. You must speak the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and place your fate in the hands of history. If I can be of any help in solving the equation in such a way as to produce the most positive outcome for your candidate, I am happy to discuss that at your convenience. Regards, Steve Bassett. And he says as a little postscript, every assertion in this email for the Paradigm Research Group to John Podesta remains true. Obviously, Podesta did not take this advice and is not likely to do so going into the November the 8th election. There was no response. Well, yeah. This is the guy who said, John Podesta said, the people have a right to know because it's the right, it's the truth. We can handle the truth, and it's right, and all the other quotes he said. I can't remember the exact quote verbatim, but basically Podesta was making a lot of noises about how he believed people deserve to know the truth about UFOs. So that's a shame that Podesta didn't get it back. And of course, what Steve wanted Hillary to do was to do a major kind of coup during her election campaign and talk openly, as she did in New Hampshire, the New Hampshire primary, about Area 51 and things like that, and about the UFO issue, which will perhaps propel her into the lead ahead of Trump and give her the impetus she needed to actually win, when in fact she lost. So, if so, then Steve was proved right, because she did actually fail in that election. There's more conversations here with Terry Mansfield and Leslie Kane, who I say Leslie Kane I've got a lot of respect for. Terry Mansfield is someone connected to the media, and I think that person, therefore, I am prejudiced against unless they can actually prove that they are people I can trust. Anyway, it's just more. There's a bit more kind of like various emails between Hillary and John Podesta, in which he does still maintain a basic interest in the UFO issue. He still has this interest. But anyway, we'll continue with all these various things. Now there's going to be Field Division short film, The Disclosure President, and it's got a great little. Here we go. I won't show you the actual poster, but it's just Google it. Laura Poitras was the lead journalist, along with Glenn Greenwald, who initiated the worldwide reportage of the classified files obtained by CIA contractor Edward Snowden. She produced and directed the documentary film Citizen 4, and eventually joined The Intercept. The Intercept is a publication for First Look Media, launched in 2013 by eBay founder and philanthropist Pierre Omidyar. It is a multi-platform media company devoted to supporting independent voices, from fearless investigative journalism and documentary filmmaking to arts, culture, media and entertainment. First Look Media produces and distributes content in a wide range of forms, including feature films, etc. While at The Intercept, Poitras, along with A.J. Sharnak and Charlotte Cook, created Field of Vision, a documentary film platform that now operates in tandem with The Intercept. And the most recent short documentary is The Disclosure President, a personal look at this disclosure work of Paradigm Research Group, directed by Elizabeth Lowe. This film portrays a personal glimpse at the advocacy work. It does give somewhat an impression of the advocacy work as a one-man crusade. In fact, the disclosure advocacy movement is worldwide, involving hundreds of participants and millions of supporters. The director, Elizabeth Lowe, was a joy to work with, and PRG hopes she will do more films about the disclosure process. And the poster is Steve basically leaning on a barrier, looking out over Washington with a thoughtful expression on. You can see, well, you can't see his face, but it's a very thoughtful kind of thinker-like pose. And I've got to see that, The Disclosure President. I mean, is it can you get it? Is it on YouTube or anything like that, or do I? It's a short film apparently. Oh, it's only short. There's a little 12-minute version of it here. Yeah, I'm going to have to check that out, definitely. I think I'll just watch it later. After I've done this particular segment of the news, I'll have a watch of it and I'll let you know what I think. So it carries on. There's more basic emails, but John Podesta emails various people trying to set up, people email him wanting meetings and things like that, and he doesn't reply to most of them. It seems like I said. I mean, is he really as keen as he appeared to be when he made that speech? And you see, there was more attempts by Terry Mansfield to get in touch with him. I mean, if Terry Mansfield goes and makes a film about this, I will watch it. I'll be interested to see it. But I'm dubious about the media, and I can't help that. And I think I'm right to be dubious about the media, definitely. Anyway, we continue. What's the next segment? Well, it appears there's a radio show I should listen to. It's got Phenomenon Radio. That's with John Burroughs and Linda Moulton Howe. Yeah, that's on KGRA. That's quite a good. It's quite a good show. I've been listening to a couple of their shows that look quite good. Again, the more people say there's too many radio shows. No, there's not too many radio shows. There are as many as there need to be. The more the better, as far as I'm concerned, about this subject. So, Steve's on there, so I'm going to have a listen to that, because he'll probably be talking about these various things. Anyway, there's a few more emails have been released in this next batch I'm going to talk about now. There's no real breakthroughs here. It's various communications between the media and John Podesta and Steve. They're going through these various different discussions, and it's I mean, the thing to do is, I mean, I do follow him on Twitter, and I've not noticed he doesn't tweet as often. He tends to tweet about other things at the moment, but I have to check. Maybe I don't spend enough time following Twitter. That's the problem. I'm just busy doing other things, so I'm not hanging around on social media. More from Mrs. Latham. And there's a letter a touching letter to Podesta from a retired US Air Force sergeant praising Podesta for his statements relating to disclosure and demonstrating concern for a possible constitutional breach preventing US presidents from being briefed on ET issues. Yeah, I mean, that's the veterans and people like that, are getting in on this now, which is really good, because some of them, I think it's military personnel are statistically the most likely people to encounter UFOs, especially in the Air Force, pilots and people like that. So they're the people who have the information. They're the people who are most affected by this in their professional lives. So which is why I think they feel this way. Okay, right. Just to let you know, I've got the phone in the room with me, and it might ring. I usually leave the phone out the room, or I leave it off the hook while I'm doing these recordings. But I need to contact a client urgently about my work, because I'm self-employed. So someone's got to try and get hold of me. I'll just pause the recording if someone phones. Okay. Now, this is about MUFON. Now, Steve has written to MUFON. This is, of course, one of the primary UFO organisations in the world, the Mutual UFO Network. It's quite an old and very prestigious organisation. And what Steve is suggesting is that MUFON takes what he calls the next step, and which means it basically becomes a non-profit organisation under the law. Article 501(3) bracket C bracket 3. Charities are allowed under law to lobby any parts of the US government about policy, law and issues. These are two simple restrictions: the amount of funds used for lobbying, and the lobbying activities must have separate accounting. It says here, there is no limit on what a non-profit organisation can spend on educational efforts targeting the public about any and all issues. Of course, all politicians and government officials are part of the public. non-profit. So MUFON is 47 years old. Oh, it's an old organisation. Yeah, 38 million members. It earns $1.5 billion. Oh, that's a lot. Blimey. Yes. So it has more members than the National Rifle Association or the AARP. That's quite something. And so what Steve is suggesting essentially is MUFON becomes a non-profit organisation under US law, and then joins the advocacy movement. Now MUFON does have reaches in all countries, and there's a MUFON director and MUFON branches all over the world, and chapters with various directors and things like that. MUFON strikes me as rather similar to Bufora. Now this is the thing. It's essentially, it is a UFO. It's a pure, what I call pure ufology. That is, what are UFOs? They're unidentified flying objects. We've got to work out what they are. Now Steve is this goes back to the difference between ufology and exopolitics. Exopolitics are essentially ufologists who've made up their minds. And exopolitics doesn't say, well, what are they? Do they exist? If they exist, are they extraterrestrial? If they're, exopoliticians say things like, well, okay, we've worked out that they exist. Now, what are we going to do about it? And that's Steve's position. I mean, Steve actually scolds me, as you've heard in my interviews, when I even use the phrase UFO. Yet he says, no, they're ET. And he says, he has his own. Steve has his own kind of language for everything, his own vocabulary, which he insists on using at all times. So good luck in persuading MUFON to rally to your call to arms, Steve. But I don't think they will. I don't think it's within their kind of remit to do it. They're not a disclosure organisation. They are a pure ufology organisation. They're still sitting around wondering what these things are, while you're lobbying the White House to try and get them to reveal the information. Never mind. I mean, it's a good try. You never know. There may be people within within MUFON who will actually come to your side. In fact, there are bound to be, because I know that there is this massive overlap between ufology and exopolitics. Nick Pope calls exopolitics the militant wing of ufology, even. So, when we were in Liverpool, God blimey, you should have seen the overflowing dustbins. Yeah. So, of course, there's going to be members of MUFON who think in exopolitical ways, and the best thing you can hope to do is get them to come and work for you as private individuals. But there's no way they'll be allowed to bring their organisation's name into it. I doubt that very much. Still, you never know. Okay, I've now watched Field of Vision, and this is the poster I said I wouldn't show you before. It's only because it was in the middle of all the WikiLeaks stuff, and I didn't want to create a separate file for it. But this is this very poignant image here of Steve leaning over, staring at the Washington skyline, looking very, very pensive, and it's for heartfelt. This film is it's only 13 minutes long, and it is on YouTube. Just look for Field of Vision, the Disclosure President. You will find it, and it's from the channel Field of Vision. And it's basically a very brief profile of Steve Bassett about what he does, and in just this short film it covers quite a lot. It covers all the basics. It's very informative, like I say, and touching. It starts off with the scene at the Roswell crash site, which is now marked by a memorial. It's just a simple cairn and a plaque, but it's there, where most researchers agree that the Roswell craft came down. And it covers Steve and everything he does, and the life he leads. He walks along the corridors of the White House, knocking on doors and available for things like this. And he's completely dedicated his life to this. He says he's got no family or anything like that. He just does this. He's a 70-year-old single man whose only goal in life is to get this done. And he says, all I'm trying to do is stay alive for as long as possible to get this done, basically because his years are limited, as he knows. And there's one shot where he's in his car, and he's got like his suits all hung up on the back seat, and or in the back of his. I think he's got like a van or a state car, and he's got his suits all hung up on coat hangers, and he's munching from like a baguette wrapped in tin foil, So he's like people like Ian R. Crane, who does this as well. He like travels around everywhere, and he basically his car becomes his kind of home. And so, but it's a good movie. It's directed by Elizabeth Lowe, and Lowe is spelled just L-O. And the blurb just says, Stephen Bassett, the only American lobbyist of his kind, hopes for a seismic shift with the 2016 US presidential elections. Bassett details his life's work and has high hopes that we can elect a president who cares about ending the truth embargo. There's a few little shots of various news spots, including Bill Clinton answering the question from Ryan from Belfast about Roswell. I don't know, Ryan. I wish they'd tell me. Yeah. Steve thinks he's just clearing his yard arm there. But also Jimmy Kimmel, who talked to Hillary on her show about what she would do if she became president, about getting things out and about, getting the information out, and having another go at releasing all the details of the UFO disclosure thing. But of course, this film was made before the election, and we now know that Hillary Clinton is not going to be president of the United States. So what does that mean for the future of UFO disclosure? So the election happened. Hillary Clinton lost. After all this focus on her campaign and the people within her campaign, it turns out she's not even going to be president. Donald Trump instead is going to be president. Now, it was a few days before anyone said anything in the disclosure area, but Steve published something on the Paradigm Research Group on November the 17th. He'd probably been working on this for a while, but he's not the kind of guy to just sit still and do nothing. But he said 2 days after the election defeat of Hillary Clinton, Paradigm Research Group received a message from a source within the military intelligence community known to the PRG. The message paraphrased is this: persons who are directly involved in the management of the extraterrestrial issue want disclosure to take place under President Obama and are ready to work with the Secretary of Defense if approached. This contact is notable as it marries up with another recent Pentagon action involving the founders of the rock group Blink-182 and Angels and Airwaves. Sometime during the past 2 years, when articles about the Clinton E.T. Rockefeller Initiative connection were being published worldwide, musician Tom DeLonge was engaged by top officials in the Pentagon who wished to assist Mr. DeLonge in bringing E.T. related information to the public in the form of books and films. The Pentagon also provided a 10-person advisory panel to help with this project. Many observers challenged the veracity of DeLonge's claims until these claims were essentially confirmed by emails from the firefighters of the Clinton campaign, John Podesta, released by WikiLeaks leading up to the presidential election. What is going on here? PRG has publicly stated the agenda of the Clinton team has been to disclose the extraterrestrial presence to the American people and the world if and when she becomes President of the United States. This option is now removed. The Clintons now have a choice to make of historic proportions. Should they immediately take interviews with top journalists and discuss in greater detail what they know about the E2 issue and what transpired during the Rockefeller Initiative of 1993 to 96? The resulting media storm will force the Pentagon and the White House to reach the necessary understanding, allowing Barack Obama to be the disclosure president. This rapprochement is necessary because the President and the Secretary of Defense are not briefed by the relevant military intelligence managers of the unacknowledged special access programs dealing with the extraterrestrial presence. In order for the Secretary of Defense to approach the White House regarding disclosure, he must reach down into the military intelligence complex for the needed information to proceed. Although the managers of the ET issues are constrained by the high level of classification, PRG is now convinced they are ready to provide that information because there is a growing internal consensus disclosure must take place under President Obama. The process is time sensitive. Disclosure would need to happen early enough for the nation to absorb such extraordinary information and settle down prior to the inauguration. There would also be time to prepare various government agencies for the engagement of the media and the public going forward. Then the new president would be stepping into a relatively stable and organised post-disclosure status. With this in mind, PRG would assert disclosure after January the 6th, 2017 would not be a reasonable option. This means the Clintons have a choice to make and a few weeks to reach a decision. Below are recent articles that either feature or referring to the decision facing the Clintons to begin speaking in full of the ET issue. and initiating events leading to disclosure under President Obama. More articles will be published soon. This is various news spots about Hillary, which I've talked about before. Some of them I've talked about before. There's one here which says, it's this is from Nature World News. Will Hillary Clinton's loss to Donald Trump bury the truth behind aliens and UFOs? And in Metro, will aliens and UFOs be Hillary Clinton's legacy or Donald Trump's? And from the Daily Express, will truth over alien UFOs stay buried now Hillary Clinton failed to make the White House? There's a couple more, but what Steve is basically saying is that with the failure of Hillary Clinton to become the next US president, it's now completely down to Obama. And Obama has to do it. He has to do it before the 6th of January, Steve says, which is basically before he leaves office. So during this transitional period in which the Obama administration hands over to the new Trump administration, Obama's got to disclose. And Hillary and Podesta have to help him do it. So there's an element of desperation in these words by Steve. Based on this, I don't think he has any hope that Trump could be the disclosure president. This might change. I'm very keen to speak to Steve and perhaps interview him again within perhaps the first couple of months of the Trump presidency. And I'm very interested to see how he feels we should go from there. Whether he feels this window of opportunity has shut, or whether it's still open. Whether maybe Trump could be the disclosure president, and maybe whether, because as I'm going to be discussing, it's possible that Trump may well be the man Steve is looking for and just doesn't know it yet. It all remains to be seen. However, it does seem like the loss of Hillary Clinton was a major blow. According to Steve, it was a major blow to the advocacy effort. I'm not so sure, but Steve here is pretty unequivocal. However, right now we're going to depart from the UFO disclosure presidential issue and talk about something else which is, although is not unrelated to it at all, but it approaches it from a slightly different angle, which is just as relevant and may even have an effect on the advocacy process. I'm going to talk about a film that's just emerged, a film I very much recommend that you see.
Right. Now, a new film has emerged, an interesting new film from an independent filmmaker who works on a very low budget, but she's extremely talented and extremely interesting, and her insights, I think, are essential to anyone who has any interest in UFOs, exopolitics and disclosure, and especially the alien abduction phenomena and its relationship to governments and their relationship to us. As I've said before, the extraterrestrials, the governments and humanity occupies a kind of infernal triangle in this particular pathological relationship that exists as relates to the Illuminati and the New World Order. Well, the filmmaker is called Sandra DeRoy. She actually directed a Basis Project Film Festival nominated short called The Walk-In Case, which was only 20 minutes long, but it was very, very good, and it was nominated, as I say, for this award. I was one of the judges on the panel, and I did vote for it, and I'm glad I did. Now she's just released her new film, which is a feature-length drama called Awakening of 12 Strands. And this is a very, very interesting film that relates to various subjects that I think most of you Hapanmo TV viewers will also be interested in. I'm referring specifically to extraterrestrials, alien abduction, targeted individuals, mind control, MILABs, military abductions, spirituality and the associated subjects related to that, and other things involving, and also the UFO disclosure issue. Now, in a moment, I'm going to play you an interview that I did on Hapanmo Radio a few weeks ago with the director, Sandra DeRoy. I met up with Sandra actually a couple of days ago. We went to an event in which her film was a small part of her film was shown. Hopefully, there'll be like an official premiere soon, and please. I will let you know if you keep your eye on the Hapanmo Voice blog. I'll let you know when that is. I think this is a very important film. I think it says an awful lot. It's a very interesting film. Sometimes you have to watch it more than once to get everything in it because it's so complicated. But I think the complication is necessary because we're not dealing with a soundbite subject here. So I think Sandra does a very good job of communicating the important issues within the film. So I interviewed Sandra on her Panwo radio, and I'm going to play you an illustrated version of that interview soon. Just like I did, I've been doing this a lot actually on her Panwo TV, playing copies of her Panwo radio stuff. But that's a good way of getting it through to people because I've noticed that a lot of the people who watch her Panwo TV don't listen to her Panwo radio, and vice versa. So there's kind of like two separate pools of people I have to sort of communicate with, which is fine. It's up to you. This is a good solution, I think. So I will post a link in the description box to the entire show. The entire radio show we're talking about here. But for now, I'm going to play you the trailer of the film, and then I'm going to go straight to my interview with the director, Sandra DeRoy. So stay tuned for that.
Hello. May I join you?
This might be an unusual story to some, specifically in scientific terms. They say it is not possible. This is not how it should be.
I'm afraid that in your case, the tests have come back positive for HIV.
Programming is very important. It was initially set for specific standards. That has been tampered with, unfortunately, decreasing the potential.
Lately there have been some changes taking place. The shift has made many of you to take a quantum leap. It has been interesting to watch.
All I'm trying to say is, do your own research, okay, and make sure what you're being told is true.
Just going through their incarnation in an amnesia state, with no desire whatsoever to make sense of what is happening right in front of their eyes. Convinced that everything is normal, as it should be.
Imagine if they started to use the 100% naturally given to them. Some were sent to remind them. Their information was misinterpreted. People started to attack them. Some started praying to them. Some stole the information and hid it from the masses. But regardless, some have managed to get back to it in ecstasy.
Sandra DeRoy, good evening.
Hello, Ben.
This is Sandra DeRoy, ladies and gentlemen, a filmmaker and researcher. It's great to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you for asking. I hope you too.
I'm very well, thanks. I'm very well indeed. I've met you a couple of times, obviously, and I've been studying your work since last year's Bases Project Film Festival, where you actually had a film nominated for an award, and this was The Walk-In Case. It's a short film, and now you're back with a feature-length movie.
Yes, Ben. Thank you so much for following my work. I remember that you were one of the judges and you as well wrote a review on your blog, and that's actually how I sort of did my research about you. So thank you again for that.
Oh, no problem. You're very welcome. Yeah, it's just a very interesting film, if I recall correctly. It's delved into some of the areas that's covered by the Basis Project and what I cover on Hapanwo, which includes things such as the extraterrestrial contact and the influence of shadow governments into people's lives and how they target certain people for various treatments and mistreatments. What gave you the idea for these films that you've produced?
Okay. Let's then talk about Awakening of 12 Strands.
That's right, your feature film, your new movie.
And then we can go back to Walking Case.
Sure.
So pretty much with the Awakening of 12 Strands, I need to leave it open, but the title pretty much says it, what it might be about, especially to those people who are interested in research about alternative approaches, not the played out mainstream mumbo jumbo. I really want to say that here.
Sure.
And my background personally is when I was 25, I did my degree in psychology. It was a 3-year full-time 360 credit, just for the skeptics out there. And then I went to do my master's degree in public health sciences. A very big mistake. I should have stuck to psychology, to be honest. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in the situation that I am now, which is, I'm not working in mental health. But what I did do was I went on to self-practice a little bit. I had deep interest in two arenas, which was hypnosis and CBT, actually, as well, which was acceptable mainstream, and I could apply that on people that I so forth practiced with.
What's CBT?
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Right.
And I did that for over a year on a side of working, irrelevant field. I did whatever I could. I was a trans. Worked in a primary school in Sweden, very part-time, while doing my master's and whatever. Okay, so the public health sciences was an eye-opener for me, because I as well thought that, okay, I will create work for myself and I will form a non-profitable organization, and then I will go on and try to apply for funding well, I heard about this competition, this national tobacco and alcohol reduction amongst youth. So I decided that I will participate in this. It was 1.5 million euros. It was a EU funded thing, and because of my master's, they accepted me to participate. And they would have divided that money between 5 non-profitables. I want to be specific when I talk about these things, because it's important.
Sure.
So it will paint a visual how it was an eye-opener for me. So when I sort of tried to do that, that was an eye-opener. I started to compose the business plan, and I started seeing the public health statistics, the Agenda 21 and global the World Health Organization statistics globally for many illnesses and the mortality rates and pharmaceuticals and everything. And I, as well, during this application, I saw how monies were being moved within the field. So it was a very eye-opener for me. But you know, I got very motivated actually as well through my personal experiences and research directly through local and friends and people, loved ones. So let's say in Awakening of 12 Strands, the main character who's called Jasmine, I thought that I would play that because I have an interest in acting. She has been diagnosed with HIV, and this is a very important part of the movie, even though it does not really directly. Well, I do talk about the issue about this illness because I had personal friends who have had HIV and AIDS, so I wanted to shed some light on the realness and actual facts about this illness, which will, you know, I'm sure that it will piss many people off because in the movie I sort of put it out there, you know, through some other characters who sort of, you know, basically say that you know, it's all BS, you know.
Yeah, and this was a very interesting scene because poor Jasmine is taken in and she sees this doctor who says that she has a HIV positive test, but someone else approaches her privately, another member of staff. That's very important, and says something very different because she's offered this AZT or another form of antiretroviral therapy, which has terrible side effects, as many people know. It's rather like chemotherapy for cancer. AZT was actually developed as a cancer chemotherapy drug, but was actually not used in cancer because it was the side effects were considered too harsh. But I mean, this is interesting because of my own experience of being in the healthcare sector when I was a hospital porter. It really struck a chord with me because I suppose I did wonder about other people because it's not a spoiler, I think, to describe the scene. Now, Jasmine had just said she'd had this terrible news. She had this deadly disease. She goes out, and the nurse who had been with her the whole time approaches her privately and says, "Do not take the medication. Do not take the antiretrovirals." Do you know what I mean? This is really in it. And of course, if she'd said that openly in the surgery, she'd be kicked out of her job, wouldn't she? But she said it privately to this patient behind her back.
Absolutely, yes.
Does this match your experience of public health? You were saying earlier there's money involved in it. It's an industry, and that of course pharmaceutical companies make a massive amount of money from selling drugs to treat illnesses, don't they?
Yes, I saw that when it took me a very long time, over half a year, to compose the business plan, and at the end I ended up being rejected. I think it was all pre-agreed anyways. I mean, I'm grateful that, you know, I learned at least, you know, how to manage the paperwork, and anyways, like I said, it was an eye-opener, so it has contributed to what I'm doing now, and that is more important to me. I'm glad I didn't even get to that field because in a way I would have had to give my consent to participate in the atrocity. So that was kind of like a minor campaign anyways, reduction alcohol amongst youth in the local country, and I didn't really see any proposals to actually solve the problem. It was all about TV and radio adverts and how to utilize and make a very cool and attractive campaign, and you know, if I would have really spoken my mind on that proposal, I would have maybe referred to everything that I've been referring to in the movie. Yeah. so because I refer what actually causes the problem, what is the root problem. And of course, like I say, it will piss many people off, but this is just my opinion, and I realize this especially during the cell practices dealing with people with addiction problems. and I knew that there were many different components. It's just not this 3D. There are spiritual and paranormal and actual things that are being sold on the shop shelf and what you put in your mouth. So I don't think that they would have liked my opinion.
No, definitely not. I mean, this begins from day one. Of course, there's a scene where Jasmine is born, and there's a midwife who's going to has this big tray of drugs. I remember, which is a common sort of thing. But Jasmine is in a terrible state. But this nurse says don't take the medication. But Jasmine, when she leaves the hospital, all kinds of things happen to her. Like some of them good and some of them bad. It's really the film seems to follow her story into various places.
Yes. End of the day, Ben, I'm a writer, and it's not even important whether these were, direct, personal, or accumulated, or whatever experiences. I don't think this is relevant here in this discussion. So pretty much, I highlight the undertitle. I don't know what the term is in the movie industry, but it's Awakening of 12 Strands, undertitle Manual to Forms of Manipulations. Mm. Well, let's look at these titles then. I as well self-taught myself like biochemistry, and I got interested in the human brain because I wanted to do my PhD in neurosciences. Thank God that didn't happen because, again, I would have taken a completely different life route here. So I'm happy that I did this. I think it will have a larger grasp anyways to create food for thought for people. And then I'm covering then, let's say, right from the beginning, so where we're from, so why these problems occur, Jasmine is a girl that has been diagnosed. She's in her mid-20s. She's been diagnosed with HIV, and she has many, many problems, such as addiction, etc., that is all displayed in the movie. Her quality of life is questionable. Maybe as well, I've highlighted that she actually was not always like this, that, once upon a time she was a different person. And then I sort of take the viewer, right from her childhood to how it is possible to get to such a destructive path. And obviously, I do try to, because it's only 1 hour 45 minutes, it should be, a proper feature length, 2.5 or 3 hours, and maybe a TV series because there's too much information. So pretty much, I want to demonstrate to the viewer where they come from, these problems. And I'm not going to give spoilers here.
Fair enough, no.
But right from the beginning, and solutions, remedies that I have then sort of accumulated through my research. So I cover all these aspects. Well, right from the beginning, let's talk about to your listeners. I'm not too worried actually that it will spoil the movie, but just to create a little better understanding. So let's say past life, bounty hunting, archonic manipulation, jinn, how to eliminate these two types, very different actually. One of them can be sort of, I believe, cured through art form, and another one more unprogramming the subconscious mind, i.e. Hypnosis, etc. And then current and past life karma, of course, food, which is a deep interest of mine, very fanatical interest in a way, and pharmaceuticals, and they will come to me. There's a couple of more there, but just to paint a visual.
Yeah, these are the themes that are woven into the story. Yeah, and this is a lot of people will be familiar with many of these ideas. But I think it's the way they reflect personally on Jasmine as an individual, which is unusual. I think that's what gives the film its interest. But Jasmine has a lot of strange experiences. She goes from the hospital, for example, and as she walks along, it's like she's followed by this big black shadow entity, and that's quite a chilling aspect of the story.
Well, that's yeah. So, like I said, not to give spoilers, I cannot really. I've already given a list, so
You'll leave it at that. Okay.
see, obviously, if that happens, then there is problem, Houston. So it needs to be dealt with, and that's pretty much what happens in Awakening of the 12 Strand. She starts then dealing with it, but things are pretty out of control with her. I think this is important because there are so many people out there that experience this, and it's a really great feeling when you come to the realization that is actually the chaos in your current life, dysfunctional relationships, and not being able to maintain a job, financial bankruptcy, and physical illnesses and mental sort of illnesses that all these are there is a real reason for these, and it's a great realization when you know that it's not you that is causing it. And I'm not religious myself, and I feel that in order to solve the problem, you cannot be in that box there, in within those brackets, because that will pretty much disclose that it is you. Why life is such, and I've been through the sort of new. Well, I haven't. I'm not saying New Age is bad. New Age is good. It's progress, but let's say just karma-based sort of meditation and beliefs is a pretty painful route to take as well, because there it is that you are the manifester of your reality. It's much more complex than that, because my other interests are as well shamanic. So I've done all the Red Indian sweat lodges, and I wish I could have integrated that into the movie, because that was very, very important. And I would recommend people to practice these things in a safe zone, of course, either alone or with a very close loved one with a mutual agenda. Because I've done in a mixed crowd that has a very bad ending there.
All right.
So so yeah, I'm pretty much on evidence-based and the more spiritual and paranormal aspect, which are all evidence-based anyways. So and then her life is so chaotic that she has and there is going to be an entree of something else, because these are the times that we live in, Ben, that we cannot, I believe, really cope with things on our own.
Right, yeah.
There are other forces that probably want us to do a little bit better than that we've been doing so far.
I certainly hope that's right.
Yeah.
It's all right. I mean, so obviously, I get the feeling Jasmine is being guided in her life. For instance, she goes into a bookshop, and this is relevant, I think.
Yeah. The bookstore scene is a significant point. So That is a very very interesting that you bring that up. It's pretty much right in the first 15 minutes of the movie. So I am trying to to show to the viewer that how everything starts. So that is a very significant point there. Yes.
Oh, right. Yeah. And what else happens, which in this respect?
Well, so it starts right from the beginning of Jasmine's birth, and what happens in the hospital. There are some good and bad things that happen. There's definitely something intervening there during Jasmine's birth. The doctor struggles with something that is very important, and I believe that they know about this in the pharmaceutical industry. But for some reason during Jasmine's birth, there's an intervenence. I'm not going to say whether it's a good or a bad one. Sorry, it is a good one, but I'm not going to say what it is. So, and then there is some bad components happening where it's normal procedure with any human when they're born. I'm trying to highlight that, and right to where she's at her primary school age. And I think you liked some bits there with Carrie Cassidy, and yeah.
That's quite amazing. Carrie, I recognise the lady who plays, the actress who plays Jasmine's school teacher is Carrie Cassidy, which we both know, someone we both know quite well. I'd just say a word on Jasmine's birth and the based on my own experience, because I was a hospital porter for 23 years, and and for 9 years I was actually a delivery suite porter, so I served in a maternity hospital in the actual delivery suite. And I know that the babies are given a massive amount of drugs from the moment they're born. They're given injections of various things. They have things put in their mouths. They're injected with certain things.
Yes.
And there's even circumcision, which is a barbaric practice, utterly barbaric. I know it's not done routinely in Britain, but I think in the United States it's done routinely to boys who are born. But would you say this is a deliberate attempt to attack the human spirit from the moment they're born?
Well, yes, pretty much that is what is being displayed. So I'm bringing out all these wonderful components that lead to, in my opinion, to problems later on in life. Because, like I said, when I was so practicing, I saw that it's so deeply rooted that, that it needs to go way back, way back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been looking into the work of Janice Barcello, who is a very interesting lady. She's trying to stop the practice in the United States of baby boys being circumcised at birth. Because did you know it's done without anaesthetic?
Oh God!
Yeah, there's no anaesthetic done at all, and she believes, and I think it's probably true, that but boys they don't forget it, and babies remember this experience, and it's one of the first experiences they have after they're born. They're taken from their mother and have this agonising operation done to remove a part of their genitals. And that stays with them their whole life. It affects their relationship with women and things like that.
Of course, it leaves a mark.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, well, I can't really say it, but it's not only the baby and the mother; it's the relationship between them, and they're aware of how to temper that in a negative way. So there is a scene there, and I put it out there so anyone who notices has done their homework.
Yeah, definitely. It's really quite amusing to see Kerry Cassidy in her first drama role. I don't know if that is her first drama role, whether she has done it before, but of course she plays Jasmine's school teacher, and it's great because Jasmine is this, like, obviously Jasmine's played by a different actress when she's a little child, and she interacts with some of the other children in the school. So where did you manage to get these young thespians from?
So it was pretty difficult to cast, especially children, because they're considered vulnerable. So I got lucky. There are a total quite a few. There are 5. So Jasmine goes to school, and I'm just trying to portray some drama there that is normal, of course, amongst humans. So Jasmine is still an innocent girl, and she remembers her origins, and she's just a very opinionated girl. So she she expresses her real opinions still in those days, and there is a bit of drama going on, and she's I guess what I'm trying to show in that scene is that is a true life event, by the way, in a sense that a young child, sort of behaving like she did. So I guess I'm trying to make an example, what humanity should be like, as far as her, not the rest of the what was going on there. It was pretty negative, and yes, I said that in the beginning, I'm laying it all out, so it's very negative and dark and gloomy. So there's a lot of problems, and many people would look at it, and just think that, God, I'd jump out of the window. Why then? So I guess I'm trying to. That's one of the examples. Is not a remedy, but I think, in my opinion, people. It's a shame that she forgot all of that, Jasmine, after that, because the innocence left at some point. She was not anymore a sane girl in her mid-20s.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I'd been more like that little girl, I think, when I was a child at school. But it's true. This film, I think, is happy. It has a happy message, but there's some darkness in it, because darkness is as real as the light, and the darkness has to be addressed. You can't just pretend nothing exists except light. And the film does that. The film addresses the darkness very, very closely and clearly. And Jasmine meets some very, very helpful people. She meets a lady later on we're going to talk about in a little while. But to begin with, she encounters some very alarming people. For instance, she meets a man in a pub. She's just sitting in a pub, and this man comes up to her, and the man is no ordinary man. It's very, very clear from the beginning, and it's quite a frightening scene in the film. I found it very disturbing.
I'm glad you found it real. Sorry you found it very disturbing, but that's a real event that took place.
I can believe it.
So this is a non-fictional, meaning that real events, and partially, well, I had to, obviously, some are stuff that were not direct experiences, but what I've read and researched and heard from other people who are researchers, seekers. So there is like 80-20 there, 80 direct and not me directly, but close surroundings, I mean. So that man is a real event, and there are good and bad, you're right. So that one is not so good. In the movie, the past will come back to present. She's going to be confronting and dealing with all these negative and positive things. And there's going to be a very good outcome, that one is, it's pretty disturbing stuff, of course. I didn't put everything, that's the thing, there was a lot more that I was not able to integrate. For example, the scene where she meets the second man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna give a spoiler, say whether it's a positive or good one. After that one, I know you want to talk about the second one as well, but after that, let's say there's a man getting arrested on the street, and there's a long, dark corridor that the camera walks through, ends up to a scene where there is an older gentleman confronting a young boy, and there is a message there. Do you remember that scene, Ben?
I can't think right now, but I did watch the film in its entirety, but it doesn't ring a bell right now. But
this is something to be looked out for, because there are names being mentioned in that scene that are, you have met these people, let's just say.
Right.
That's for people who are very active, let's say with a basis project, that they would know these names. So there are, yeah, good and bad going on there.
Right. I'll have a look out for that. I mean, I know.
I'm surprised you didn't see that long corridor one.
Well, I mean, the version of the film you sent me. I know you didn't send me the finished version. You sent me. I know you've been working on the editing and things like that. But,
all the scenes were there.
Right. I'll probably. The moment I see it, I'll know it. I'll know it.
It's very brief. It's just the 10 seconds. Yeah, it's not long, so it's very easy to. Yeah.
The moment I see it, I'll remember it, I'm sure. But so she's now we all know about the London Underground. I've been studying the London Underground and its reputation for strange happenings. But something very strange happens to Jasmine on the Underground, and I want to talk about that as well.
Yeah, there's actually only one scene, so I shouldn't be confused. She comes from Carol, the lady that she starts to meet. There's 2 long scenes with Carol, so she comes after the second meeting. She is making her way home, so she's in the underground, and it's already sort of it's all happening with Jasmine. So she's coming to the realization, she's going back to her childhood innocence and knowledge. So she is, so to speak, ready for more, what is out there, and therefore, how can I put this? So therefore, she is gonna start meeting synchronized people and events that are, ready for her level, because she's taken a step to a different level. So she's resonating with a different kind of information and contacts.
That's good. This is part of the happy elements of Jasmine, because she grows as a person, she develops. Now, in the film, do you discuss UFO disclosure?
Yes, of course.
Right. So how does that come into the film?
There are quite a few scenes there that UFO disclosure is very, very important. So that is a common part of awakening the 12 strands. So a couple of the characters from the list are the ones who are part of this information, and anyone who's interested in it will see that. So yeah, this is actually important to say as well. So it's catering for the people who are just starting off, ABCs, and as well for people who are more clued up and up to date. So,
and this is an issue that I focus on an awful lot in this program. We've had Stephen Bassett on quite a few times, as well as several other people who go into this area. The idea that at some point, the idea that UFOs exist and that the government know about it, and they have absolutely irrefutable evidence that it exists in the form of dead aliens, crash retrieval debris, things like that, which they salvaged. They will at one point simply tell people that that's the case. They will make it public knowledge. And this is the theme of my own novel, which I've just published. And
absolutely, yeah.
And,
I scanned through it, Ben. I promise you, I will read it now after.
No rush, no rush.
Absolutely.
I'm working on a version with bigger print, but I mean, is this feasible? I mean, I'm not going to say in the film whether this actually happens in the film or not, but do you believe it's feasible that might actually happen? You might just simply get the president, it'll be Trump now, not Obama, or our Prime Minister Theresa May or whoever else is Prime Minister, simply saying, ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to tell you, UFOs exist, they are real. We've known about it for 70 years at least. We kept it from you, but now we're telling you. Is that feasible, Sandra, in your view?
Is that feasible? As in,
could it possibly happen?
Yeah. Okay. I think yes, it's feasible. It's not going to be obviously the U.S. government. It won't be them. It will be, if anyone, it will be maybe Putin. Funny enough, I have a little clip of Putin in the movie. I do integrate humor as well in the movie. I hope that you noticed that in some bits. Especially the office scene with the two work colleagues. I had someone see that scene and they told me that you have to use these two ladies in an up-and-coming comedy if you ever write one, and because they were so hilarious, even though it was a very depressing scene where Jasmine goes to work and anyways, I'm drifting away from the feasible question now.
That's
but
okay. No. We'll talk about The Office in a minute, definitely. But I mean, I'm just curious about the political possibility, whether it's actually the political structures of this world have.
Interesting. Very good question. Can I just make a point?
Yeah,
so
of course.
Let's talk about like what is happening. This was an interesting point made through conversation with a close family member. What is happening in the world? Let's say Putin. I don't think, it will be either from that side, because there is something, obviously, a big conflict in, how can I say, fraction going on between the West and Russia. So, Trump is not going to do that because he's representing the same people, of course. I thought in the beginning, funny enough, I was manipulated. I thought that he's genuine, but we need to all use our intuition, so I used mine and I looked at the situation. He's definitely representing the same people. Interestingly enough, this came out as well during the conversation that they use it's not remote viewing, but they use this sort of time travel technology to predict the election's outcome, etc. So that is possibly the game that they played here. I don't think they even care about our vote, but anyways, it doesn't matter. I think it's a crashing train. The U.S. they will never come out with that information. It's bad for business. So that would mean free energy, etc. But there's a shift going on. So interestingly enough, in the old days when Putin would seem so disgusting to majority of the world, and so I didn't like the guy, but now I'm completely I have a lot of respect for him. He's I think he's the real deal, and I've tried to display that little nuance in the movie. A along with other many characters speaking in one scene. Well, that is the referencing point I'm giving there. You could call it the referencing point.
Yeah. I mean,
And so there's a shift that has happened that maybe he was normal all this time, and this came out through conversation. I really resonated with this thought that is it the shift that has happened, that the way we perceive this man, Putin, let's say, I'm talking in general about anything in our lives, that is it the shift that has changed because, or was it the shift that changed him? Or something happened. Let's talk about the Kremlin UFO. So what happened here? Maybe he was always the same, but why did he seem so disgusting to me in the beginning and so fraudulent, but now completely different perception towards him and even Russia? So very interesting. What has the shift has done to us?
it's hard to know.
Do we see things now clearly? Are we seeing things now really clearly and more and more and more? Or it's happening within us, so he did start singing a different song. Do you understand where I'm going with this question then?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, maybe that something inside him changed. I mean, as a result of changes within us. I mean,
This is what I mean. That maybe I wasn't listening to him in the beginning. Maybe he was genuine from the start, but I didn't register. I was not able to register his information.
one thing I could say about Vladimir Putin is he's one of the few statesmen on earth I feel any sense of respect for. I mean, compared to, for instance, our own governments here, people like Tony Blair, people like David Cameron. I mean, Putin is head and shoulders over all of them in terms of almost every scale. And I think you're right. Probably he is the biggest hope when it comes to actual willing disclosure, with all its implications of free energy and things like that, and the knowledge we're not alone, the fact that the U.S. government has lied, things like that. He's the man I would trust the most with it, I think.
Absolutely. I think that the fractions that people are up to date who represent the so-called New World Order, Russia is not on that list. There would be different governments there listed. Many talk about it, but yeah. Anyways, I think it's positive what's coming from him.
Yeah, me too. That's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of old KGB files from the Soviet era that are now freely available, because when that government collapsed in the late 1980s and early 1990s, a massive amount of UFO evidence actually got out. It ended up on the black market, where anyone with the right amount of money could actually buy one of them. And I know some producers from a TV show actually did buy some UFO film on the black market and some documents, and it all looks pretty conclusive to me. It's very, very persuasive.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
I believe that. Even the literature, I was brought up a little bit in the Soviet Union time. I saw a little glimpse of it. I was born in a Middle Eastern country. But anyways, the literature back in communism, there were books published about, let's say, Mars. Mm-hmm. That would be on average civilian's bookshelf of how the climate on Mars is according to their research. And then the amnesic flush came in the 80s, and then we started from square one again, and all these books were burned and eliminated, so no one kept them. And we're like repeating information. It hasn't been updated for 100 freaking years. Mm-hmm. So it's time for update. Absolutely.
Definitely. Well, it's a shame those old books were gone, because it's very often in older books you find information that's missing from newer books, because it's edited out of newer books. So that's a shame. So if anyone has a copy of one of those old Soviet books on Mars, please let me know, or let Sandra know.
I'm going to look it up. I'm going to find it.
But you may see if your grandma has got one in her attic. She may have one there.
Well, that's where it was. Yeah, according to family members. So I'm gonna.
Because there's a lot of secrets, and very often some things that are published in olden times are censored or classified in newer times, but the old books still are there. They still float around. I mean, it's that's why I like books.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, we should move on and get back to Jasmine and her story, because what happens next is she's lying on her bed. There's a scene where she's lying on her bed. This is a very powerful scene. What's that all about?
Yes. So that is the breaking point of the movie. Things take a complete different turn after that. She's thrown off balance by that experience a little bit. She doesn't understand what happened there, but she shall find the answers to that. After actually, she will realize that was a positive event. And it's all interconnected. So that one is. I hope that people get the idea there, because obviously, well, there is an operation taking place, but for what and how it ends up. So that will be for you to judge. But I hope that I've done the camera work in necessary angles to give a specific understanding, what's going on there. I wish that I could bring some references, but I can't. So.
Okay. Now, Jasmine, is Jasmine happy at work?
No, she's miserable there. She is miserable, and she's very mistreated by her colleagues. And again, these are real scenarios. How people treat each other. I think, people are not as brutal anymore. This would have happened maybe just recently now, but I really, in my eyes, I see that people are becoming lighter, and then if that sort of treatment takes place, I think that wouldn't be tolerated, and I don't think that many do that. And the essence of that scene, of course, is I'm explaining to the viewer why that happens, because it's not only Jasmine and there are many other factors involved, let's say.
Yeah, but it involves these two women who she works with, who you said would make a good comedy double act. It's certainly not a laughing matter when they're addressing Jasmine in the office. I like you. I don't know why people do this. I know there are real situations like this. I encountered people at the hospital who I found unpleasant, and I've heard of other much worse stories of people having these encounters with others in the workplace, and it's almost as if they change into different kinds of people when they're in the workplace.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
I think that that was normality. I haven't really seen that sort of behavior in my reality anymore. It's taken very hard work, and I guess that scenario as well, as far as Jasmine is concerned, is teaching her how to declare herself. It's very important for an individual to declare themselves, because end of the day, Jasmine, well, let's break it down like Theta Healing would do it. Someone treats you like that, you tell them to fuck off, you leave the office, you never go back to that workplace again. It opens up new doors. One book closes, another one opens, or a door, I mean. So, she should have maybe declared herself, and she does start declaring herself along the movie, because she's becoming stronger, and she understands her value.
Recapturing her lost youth when she was a little girl. No, it's yeah, it's a sad thing when people behave like that, and there's sometimes, there are people not as bad as these two women in the film, but there's people I knew at the hospital who I were almost unapproachable in the workplace. I would do everything I could to avoid them, and luckily, because I was a porter and it was a very very big workplace. It was a 700 bed hospital. I wouldn't often encounter unpleasant people, but if you met them outside work, they'd be absolutely fine. They'd be normal people.
Really?
Yeah, it's almost as if.
Well, end of the day, this is a science fiction movie. I'm not talking about only human factors. We're not going to give spoilers, but there's a lot going on in that scene, isn't it?
Yes, yes, there is.
There are other entrees, and that's it. That is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there are a lot. These two girls aren't. I won't give spoilers, like you say, but these two girls are not being. They are being influenced by others, non-human others, I'd say. Yeah, definitely. Now, Jasmine, despite these two girls, she does have some comfort in going to the canteen, and she has a friend, and she met this friend in the canteen, and this is a very important scene, I believe.
Yes, that is definitely very important as far as I'm concerned. I hope the viewers will appreciate that and pay a very close mind to the information there. It's a very intense dialogue going on between her and the friend. Jasmine is not in a right place to really respond, but there is a lot of information that is very evidence-based, frankly, and part of the, if you are serious about having quality life. So I'm not going to say what it is about, but that is as well. After that, things start going uphill because the friend states in that scene that, I'm not one of those people that forces my information on people because I believe people should earn it and information should be respected and earned. So the friend is getting a sense that something has happened to Jasmine, and they're telling Jasmine, you seem like a person who deserves better, so please accept this information from me.
Alright, yeah, that's and then this encounter in the canteen leads directly to a very important scene, a major scene in the book, where Jasmine encounters another character, a positive character called Carol, who is she a counsellor or healer? What is Carol's role in the story?
Carol brings a very lovely quote that actually comes up as well in Walking Case. God, we haven't even talked about Walking Case.
We come to that. We've got plenty of that, yeah.
So Carol is a very good friend of a lady called Lukanen. She brings a beautiful quote out.
Is this Rowney killed her?
Yes.
Oh, right, yeah, of course.
So Carol is her friend because she says that as my rest in peace, my friend used to say, what is the biggest secret in the world? It is you, the human being on this planet Earth. You are the biggest secret to yourself and to your fellow human beings around you. Again, another breaking point. So the information that Carol was giving, I hope people will appreciate that, because she's a very knowledgeable woman, and this is all evidence-based, so, I have put a lot of thought into it.
And she says she has good news for Jasmine. She refers directly to Jasmine's illness as well.
Yes, because of her expertise already by then of the illness, and she brings out perfectly logical solutions to it. So anyone who has a close one or anyone, I think they should have a look. Yeah.
Another source of comfort for Jasmine is her best male friend, BMF, what I think you call it. A guy she often meets in a park. They just sit on a bench and they talk. And he's in the opening scene of the film on the version that you sent me, and maybe you've changed it. I don't know, but he comes up. He comes up several times in the film, and he plays a positive role, doesn't he?
Yes, yes, definitely. He becomes very fond of Jasmine because he's interested, and he finds the information very fascinating, and he believes in it, and he was interested in the journey. And end of the day, I am trying to be a filmmaker, right?
Yeah.
So it was hard for me to create it in a logical, chronological order, in a logical, chronological order. That's how I should say it. And it was difficult. So it was. I had this. This is actually. It's not non-fictional. This is actually as well one of the true sort of encounters. So. It's integrated throughout the movie, starts right from the beginning and goes all the way to the end. So there are questions being asked, answers being given. So it gives the viewer a very clear overview of what is happening. So I hope it made it more easy to follow, because there's a lot going on. And like you said, that you missed out that corridor scene. I asked you to go back to it now. Now you noticed it.
Yes, I do.
So there's a lot going on in this bench talk between two good friends.
That's right.
Dot connector.
And Jasmine also is in touch with her mum, and she speaks to her mum on Skype. And where does the spider come into it?
Yes, so that is on the list for the undertitles. So anyone interested and anyone up to date will know exactly what that represents. That is where I'm gonna leave it to. There it is there. Anyone who is up to date, who is interested in these topics, will know exactly what it represents. So I had to repeat that, and that is exactly how it is. It's very, very symbolic, very clear. I know what it is. I hope people who are up to date will know as well what it represents.
Right. Scenes in the film which you pack a lot of information into, and in fact I had to watch it a couple of times to actually get all of it, is the scene where Jasmine is at the bus stop, because it's really, there's so many different elements in this particular scene, I think.
Yeah, she's at the bus stop with the same guy that she's been talking to from the beginning. It demonstrates how they became friends. They had never met before that. So in the bus stop, it's her, the man that she's talking to, and her old colleague is there, one of the ladies.
I had to watch it a couple of times to actually recognise her. But unbelievably, it is one of these horrible women, or previously horrible women from The Office. And she's talking on the mobile phone, and it's amazingly, it's amazing, because this is set later, is it, than the previous part of the film?
This is much later. You can see that Jasmine has completely changed, because I actually have to say that I really went beyond the Call of Duty. I mean, in the beginning, you can see Jasmine looks very tired and even overweight, out of shape. So. I did that actually deliberately, in a way that I a little bit let go, and I was eating a little bit.
Really, you did that?
Honestly, yeah, I really did. Honestly, I went that far.
That's what Robert De Niro did. That when in Raging Bull, he basically forced himself to put on weight so he could play this rather overweight character.
Well, it didn't take me, I'm very sensitive, so just a week or two, a little bit, and after that you can see that she looks completely different in the bus stop.
She looks a lot more healthy. She looks happier too.
Healthier, that's the word.
Yes. Yeah. But now I've myself have experienced.
So that is. To answer your question, yes, that is a lot later.
Yeah, I mean, I've personally experienced the Mandela effect in my life. I'm one of many people who have, and it's a very, very strange scenario. In my case, it was the Looney Tunes. This is a common one. This is a very common one. I remember. I mean, this is a very, very strange thing. But this comes into the scene, doesn't it?
Yes, I demonstrate that in the bus stop scene. We're not going to say how it plays out, but I'm demonstrating that.
It's a very weird thing. Now, I know that skeptics will say, "Oh, I'm just conflating. I'm just errors in memory. We all suffer from these things." But different people should get different memory errors. But what I found is that certain features, large numbers of people get the same errors of memory, and it's a really amazing thing. And this is something I've experienced.
And that is true. The statements that are in the bus stop, Jasmine and her old colleague talk briefly, and not to spoil it, but there is a question being asked, and then this is actually what really has taken place. And just to rectify, this was not much later, not years and years later, but this was, let's say, less than a year later, less than a year. So, yeah, not too long.
So towards the end of the film, the pace changes and the mood lightens a little bit, and Jasmine is obviously, like you said, she's healthier, she's happier, and she's taken up meditation as well. And she does this. There's a scene where she's actually meditating, which is really amazing.
Good point. So yes, it is there after the bus stop. That is called Qigong, and what she is doing is the flying dragon. I am no real, sort of expert in Qigong, but I have been personally practicing it for over 2 years, and for me it has been a life changer. And I'm again demonstrating the effects of it, what it can have. So I really recommend to practice this sort of meditation. Qigong is a very on its level on its own.
Qigong meditation. I have to remember that. I mean, I've done Zen meditation myself, which is quite easy to do. And I did like it. I didn't persevere with it as maybe I should have done, but I think meditation, if you stick at it, I know a lot of people who do, and they get an awful lot out of it.
I will look into Zen. I'm sure I've heard of it. I just haven't at the time then sort of resonated with it. But you're saying it to me now for a reason, so I will go and look it up.
Cool. It's the simplest form of meditation that you can do. Apparently, it's anyone can do it. You don't even have to squat down. You can sit in a chair and do it. And
absolutely.
Yeah, it's very, very simple to do. Very simple.
Very, very important, because some Qigong exercises are as well acupunctural, and I'm sure that Zen, if it's sitting down on a chair, it sounds very similar to me when I'm listening to you now. So acupunctural points, when they're stimulated, they will they will have a certain effect.
Yeah.
And on a certain body organ, because I've been still practicing bioresonance as well. I wanted to say that's the reason why I have a lot of this sort of information. It's a machine that you use a little pencil to touch the fingers in the hands and legs for certain body organs, to stimulate them and to find out what is going on. So I think that was Zen. You place your index finger, let's say, on your chin, and you place your right or left foot in the front, or you're sitting down in a chair. Sounds like that,
Oh, I think you do in some forms of Zen practice. The simple Zazen meditation, you just cup your hands in front of your belly, your sacral point, and you have to sit upright. If you're on a cushion, just sit completely upright and half close your eyes, and then you just breathe in. You count. They say count to 10. Breathe in. Count 1 to 3, 10. And out 5 to 6, 7, and things like that. And you hold your breath and start again. And watch your thoughts passing like clouds. Don't try to suppress your thoughts. Just observe them from a distance and watch them passing like clouds.
Wow.
That's our Zen.
Observing them.
Yeah. That's and that's a simple form of meditation that anyone can do.
It's very breath based as well, so sounds very sort of similar. That's the word.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure the listeners will be very curious about this, and I want to watch the movie when it's available. So, how is this film going to be distributed?
Pretty much what I would say is that I'm going to be publishing now the 25th of November. 25th of November. That is literally now
tomorrow.
Friday.
Right. So, well, this listeners will be hearing this on Thursday the 24th. So it's basically the following day.
Yes, 25th. Now, the way I'm going to initially now publish it online is I'm going to publish it on YouTube. And anyone who wants to view it will email me, because I do ask for a very small charge. I self-funded this movie, so I'm just trying to cover my expenses, if that is okay.
Absolutely.
So small charge. I'm not sure what the charge will be, but it will be very small, just few quid. And then I will grant access on the YouTube. So anyone with a YouTube account can email me to walkincase@gmail.com. Walkincase is, as you hear it, WALKINCASE, walkincase@gmail.com. And if you want to see the trailer for it, then you go to, currently I don't have an individual website, I only have a Facebook link, so it is facebook.com/walkincasefilm, as you hear it again, walkincasefilm. And the trailer and the posters there, and you can get other updates. So this movie as well, I contacted the Phoenix Film Festival, where I hope that they will accept my entry. As well, I'm going to publish it on Amazon. I haven't set it up, but I was told that it's very straightforward, so I will have it on Amazon available, and on Vimeo as well. Vimeo is very new, but I was told that as well. I don't know about iTunes if they distribute videos, but essentially,
they do,
yeah.
You can
So
get videos.
I can use all these sources. First one will be PAL, it will be YouTube, and then you can message me on Facebook. You can add me as a friend on my personal Facebook page for any questions, or whatever. Sandra Daroy. So Sandra, as you hear it, Daroy is Daroy. You're gonna add those links, I think, Ben, right?
Yes. If your listeners, the links that Sandra has just talked about are in the show notes, so please do go there, and you'll be able to find links to the Facebook group and the other things that Sandra's mentioned. So all the information's there.
Absolutely. Like I said, you can contact me for other issues about, personal problems or experiences, or any questions about the movie, and or some interesting collaboration idea. I'm always open. It obviously comes with the territory, so I need to be open for that. And any updates now, then I'm really hoping, as far as distribution, I've asked the Camden sort of mini cinema hall to just show it. So maybe they haven't given the green light, but I will update it on the Facebook page that if there is a local cinema in London displaying independent low-budget movies or whatever, that I will put it on the Facebook. You can go and see it live then. Absolutely.
You can't be. I mean, it's great you're making it available, and it'll be available the day after the show is broadcast live. But you can't beat a night out in front of the big screen, and it'd be great if you can arrange a cinematic performance of the film. That'd be brilliant. I'll certainly come along to that. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, when you are invited, I will have to do a premiere party because there's like 30, 40, 50 with extras, actors,
Oh.
and I promised them a little get together. And of course, anyone who was not part of the cast is welcome. I think it's going to be a decent size, the premiere hall, at least a couple of hundred seats, because I've already looked them up, so I have a couple of options. I will have all this on the Facebook page, and I will keep you updated then, absolutely.
Brilliant, great. That's fantastic. And we mustn't forget, you're also you said you would like to make your other short film, The Walking Case, available again soon. Is that what you're working on as well?
It's set on private. Anyone who really wants to see that. It was my first zero budget movie. I had no experience and no money whatsoever. And I just shot it on limited tools, just the desire to tell a story. And then reshoot this right after this. I will add a couple of more essential informative scenes to paint a better picture. It's a different story, Walking Case, but anyone who wants to see the first, I apologize for the quality. Some have really liked it. I know Miles liked it. He saw the real, the story behind it and the information. So, that was nice. But I will quickly put together a new one, and I will keep it still as a short, and then hopefully make a long version of that story after, when I get some sort of support, and offers.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, I mean, I remember the film. I did see it. It was over a year ago now, but I remember seeing it in the Basis Project film.
Much more over a year ago, 2 years ago.
2 years, that's right. Yeah, it was back in. That's right. It was the Basis Project. We had. I think I can't remember when it was, but yeah, but it was a great. I did enjoy it. I thought it was very interesting. I did enjoy it. I thought it was a very good movie. So yeah, I hope to get to see that again soon as well. Hopefully, it'd be really, really nice.
I really want to move on to already the next story. Like, I made a joke earlier with the two ladies in the scene that they will be part of the comedy version. I thought I would name this comedy film The Unprogrammed Virgin City, because I have this very funny comedy. I do like comedy. I try to even integrate an awakening. I do appreciate a good sense of humor, and I've already sort of sketched a new, completely different approach to a different problem story that suddenly popped in my head. I'm pretty excited about that one.
Right. Do you have any more plans for any feature films on similar subjects to this one?
Well, that's the one that I just mentioned now.
All right, okay.
It came to me completely. I don't know what that was a weird one. It just interesting.
Yeah, that's remarkable.
You're a writer. You already know.
Yeah, I do. I've had some amazing writing experiences. Like suddenly I channel my muse and I just write, and I can write like everything just perfect, just for. Yeah, there's a scene in my first novel which is just, there's about 30 pages, and it's just all came out in one go, and it's just perfect.
I completely believe you, Ben. I really believe that it all came out in a short time as well, and then you went and you were like, what happened here?
Yeah. I go, how the hell did I do that?
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't come from your conscious thoughts at all. It doesn't.
Everybody has to say, very good, perfect.
Hey, well, Sandra, it's been great to talk to you this evening. It's been very interesting hearing about the film, which I've seen, and everyone else will hopefully get to see soon. And I'll look forward to watching your future projects, and hopefully bring you back on the show at a future date to talk about those when they arrive.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ben, for your patience. I've been a little pain, maybe. But
No, it's different. But they say there's a lot of it's a quite a complicated production doing this interview. But then that's I expect that from a talented film director. Uh, so I think we can hopefully say, cut everybody, it's a wrap.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome, Sandra, and thank you for coming on the show. And you have a pleasant evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sandra DeRoy on Hapanwo Radio. Well, I'm pleased to tell you that since we recorded that interview with Sandra, Awakening of 12 Strands is available on Vimeo.com. So go to Vimeo, Vimeo, and search for it. Awakening of 12 Strands with 12 in digits, 1, 2. It costs you £3.84 to rent, and you get a year. Do you get a year's license with that? Yeah, quite. I think you do. So please do check that out. It's a very, really good film. It's very easy to watch on Vimeo for a very, very reasonable price. And watch out for DVD runs of it, and also it will hopefully be appearing in some more cinemas soon. So well done, Sandra. Brilliant movie. It's the perfect, I think, theme for all the exopolitical and UFO subjects that come our way when we're researching this incredible series of phenomena.
Now, I want to discuss two articles that were written by Grant Cameron. Grant Cameron, as I said, has two websites, a White House UFO and Presidential UFO. And it's on presidentialufo.com that he has written two specific articles in the post-election weeks concerning the UFO disclosure issue in the post-election pre-Trump era, and what it means, what the election result means for the UFO disclosure era. He's written one was on the 22nd of November called Trump and the ETs, which says it all really, doesn't it? I'll just read through this and give you my own views on it. In the fall of the year 2016, fall means autumn, for those of you who are not American, prior to the country's new coming election, everything will change. Now that Hillary Clinton has been defeated at the polls, her promise to get to the bottom of the government secrecy on UFOs has ended. The stories of some sort of imminent raising of an ET awareness by the government has not. That's interesting. So, Cameron's not giving up. That's the point. I mean, he sounds a lot more optimistic from the get-go than Steve Bassett. There is a group of people inside the Pentagon who have come forward in the last couple of days who are willing to come forward if they are given the green light by those in government who control the issue. If Hillary were asked to elaborate on her knowledge of what happened on UFOs during the Clinton administration and how the system has kept the secret, it might stir enough controversy to turn on the green light. There is also another move to move the government to open up further on the UFO issue. The famous rocker Tom DeLonge is part of this, so that's where he fits into it. This is the guy who Steve said, well, Podesta's willing to meet with him but not meet with Edgar Mitchell. Well, I don't know. I have a source inside the huge number of people that are part of this openness effort. I'm aware of the person in Washington who is running it. When the election was over, I asked if the light was still green or if it had turned red. I was told it's still green and greener than ever, with big names and big money behind it. I was once again pointed to January, where there would not be a disclosure but a big event. What's that mean? That's a bit worrying, isn't it? What the hell is he talking about there? Sadly, there seems to be no clear intent by any reporter to go down this road for various reasons, so we may just be heading back into the dark ages of knowledge about the UFO subject. Oh dear. And he was sounding more optimistic early on. As the researcher who has invested 30 years of research into the relationship between the United States President and UFOs, I have worked a lot to find out how Trump fits into the UFO story. Now that he has won the election, the time has come to write about what I have found. The first thing to mention is that there is no known reliable material that shows any link to Trump and the UFO story, aliens or extraterrestrial life. This was a question I asked Steve during my interview. Where does I mentioned Bernie Sanders as well. Well, Bernie was still in the race, but I said to him, where does Trump fit into this equation? And Steve essentially said he doesn't. And where was I? Yeah. Oh, right. The first thing to mention is there is no known reliable any link to Trump. Right. We have no idea what he thinks about the subject, despite his apparent interest in conspiracy theories. These conspiracy theories are often outlined in the National Enquirer newspaper, which is a Trump supporter. The Enquirer, however, does not do UFO stories and hasn't probably for 30 years or more. There is, however, one 31-second video on the internet where Trump is being yelled at about disclosure while he signs hats and posters. Trump totally ignores the man confronting him. The reason that nothing has come up is in part that he has not been asked. The UFO community has a lot of opinions about what the American leaders should do about UFOs, but almost no one steps up to ask. I'm just going to watch that video actually. Let's have a look. This is the video of a Trumpy being harassed. Just 30 seconds. Oh, all that's happening is this guy is standing in front of Trump with a camera. Trump's signing, yeah, and he's saying, "What are you going to do about UFO files? Lots of countries disclose. What are you going to do about it? What are you?" And saying, "When are you going to disclose UFO files? When are you going to disclose?" So that's what that consists of. That video. Trump would have been asked in New Hampshire, but the way he ran his campaign prevented his taking the question, like someone did here with Hillary. But maybe just nobody got the chance. I'm surprised someone hasn't done a Richard D. Hall and gone and just Anyway, Damon Steer. Oh, here we go. This is where he talks about Hillary. Asked most of the candidates about the UFO question, but not Trump. Damon Steer was the man who approached Hillary Clinton at the New Hampshire primary and said this UFO stuff, where Hillary came out with all the stuff about Area 51 and how she was going to invade it and stuff like that. He didn't ask Trump. Oh, anyway, the reason he did not ask Trump had to do with how Trump operated. Every candidate except Trump ran a traditional New Hampshire campaign. The normal political campaign spends 6 months to a year in New Hampshire in an attempt to win and gain momentum, as New Hampshire is the second state to vote for the party candidates. Everybody gets a bus and travels from town to town asking people what people think in town halls and then showing how they are the right person to make everybody's wishes come true. Every candidate meets with electoral boards of small town newspapers in the state and hopes they will do a positive article describing the candidate's platform and qualifications. Trump did not do this. Trump really didn't care what anyone thought. He believed he had the answer to everything and had no need to go into a town hall and listen to people on the street. If you don't believe that, just remember that Trump said he knew more about ISIS than the generals. This is, unfortunately, Grant Cameron is parroting an awful lot about the sort of anti-Trump propaganda that's been in the mainstream media lately, and I don't think it's quite fair. Trump is not. He's portraying him as aloof and away from the. I should keep my place in the area. As aloof and disconnected from the electorate. That's not true. That's not the impression I got from Trump. Anyway, the way Trump operated in New Hampshire and every other state was to fly in an hour before a speech on his private plane. In the case of New Hampshire, then fly back to New York after the event. Therefore, Trump never appeared in the Conway Daily Sun newsroom, where he would have to face the questions. This is what Hillary did. Trump and space. Trump has been pointed out that Trump has made no reference to UFOs. I think they need a comma in there. All the search for extraterrestrial life in outer space. He has made some speeches on space and has expressed support for manned exploration of the solar system rather than satellites flying around the weather, studying things like weather. He needs to edit this article, Grant. You really do. There will, therefore, probably be a cutback in the NASA Earth science programs. What he means here is Trump says he doesn't believe in climate change, so he's not going to send satellites up to monitor the ice formation and things like that. He said, "I will free NASA from the restriction of serving primarily as a logistics agency for low Earth orbit activity," Trump told a Sanford, Florida audience in October. Trump made one major speech on space in the final days of the campaign in Florida, where he promised jobs and big things in space. It's clear from the speech that he was reading from a teleprompter, so it was apparent it was written for him. He proposed deep space manned missions, jobs, in an effort to compete with Russia and China, who are active in space in that regard. Well, you wonder if he knows about the moon landings and the radiation problem. Speaking off the cuff, as he often does, I thought you said he was reading from a teleprompter, Grant. Come on. Murder your darlings, Grant. Come on, and get yourself a bloody proofreader. NASA is a little less promotional. Such as the time on the campaign trail where he told a 10-year-old boy that fixing potholes was a more pressing problem than anything NASA related. Right, the man who probably wrote it, this is the speech, was Robert Walker, former chairman of the US House Committee on Science, Space and Technology, former chairman of the Commission for the Future of the US Aerospace Industry. I'm going to skip a little bit because there's nothing to do with UFOs. This is just a rant about climate change. Here we are, Trump and the aliens. There are no common ideas between aliens and Trump. As hard as I looked, I could find nothing Trump believes that the aliens would agree with. What do you mean, Grant? Some might contend that we do not know what aliens believe, and this is so. Yeah, that's my question. The argument is based on the best available evidence. Everything is based on belief, despite many who believe they know and others believe without quotes. That is, people believe the Earth is round. Kennedy was shot by a lone assassin. Science provides proof. There is no 9/11 conspiracy. UFO sightings can provide the answer to the UFO mystery. Richard Doty was... This is Richard Doty, who's a spy. I've mentioned him in previous videos, who infiltrated the UFO Disclosure movement. This was in the late 70s. He recruited a guy called Paul Benowitz and William Moore. It's a long and very, very tragic and sordid story. I've mentioned it in one of my Peasmore videos, I think. I describe it in detail. But Richard Doty, Cameron said Richard Doty was behind the entire MJ12 story. I don't agree with that, but that's a long... I'll go into that in detail another time. That involves almost 20 years and thousands of pages of documents. All UFO government leaks are disinformation to throw off the Russians. Skepticism is a required element of the scientific method. Hillary and Obama are demons from hell who smell like sulfur, and the list goes on. I think he's actually being sarcastic here. I think he's... Anyway. As much as possible, I have tried to use data from the Experiencer survey conducted by the Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Experiences, free. Now I think that's the organisation that was set up by Mary Rodwell and a couple of other people. I'm sorry if I'm misreading you here, Grant. I'm just finding this style of speech hard to follow. I think you were being sarcastic in the previous paragraph about Richard Doty and stuff like that, and disinformation, etc. Anyway, yeah, this involves 2,500 Experiencer survey replies. This is disputed by some skeptics, just as people who believe they are experiencers. The skepticism does not change the value of the free evidence, because the criticism is just a skeptic who believes the experiencers just believe they are experiencers. The skeptics forget that they are basing their conclusions on belief. That's very true. I've done a whole entire video about this. Skeptics, my skeptic video, my most recent one. Well said. So we have the belief of 2,500 versus the belief of one person. It is obvious which is the most compelling evidence. The argument is also based on what the best evidence. What noise? That noise is the toilet in the flat above. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's someone. Whenever they flush the toilet up there, it makes that horrible noise. We have complained to the landlord. Anyway, the argument is also based on what the best evidence we have of what Trump believes as opposed to what he says. This is a bit of a guess, as Trump has been known to present different statements on the same subject within days of each other. Right, nuclear weapons. The aliens. Oh, this is comparing the free FREE data, what the experiencers say, compared to what Trump believes. Right. Aliens say one of the key concerns of the aliens appear to be nuclear weapons. That's true. They have an uncanny interest in our nuclear weapons. They seem to have appeared in mass numbers after we detonated the first nuclear weapon in 1945. Most of the early contactees spoke of messages they were getting from the aliens to stop nuclear tests. They have been seen over nuclear weapons areas, on bases, and at main storage sites such as the Manzano weapons storage area outside of Kirtland Air Force Base. They have shut down and turned on nuclear weapons both in the United States and Russia. Others have got images that may be related to nuclear weapons. Emily Trim, an 8-year-old and one of 62 school children that witnessed a UFO land on the edge of the playground at the Ariel School in Rhodesia in Zimbabwe. This is in 1994. This is the Ariel School incident that I've talked about before. I don't know if is he familiar with this case. He calls it Rhodesia. It's actually changed its name in 1980 to Zimbabwe. I'm surprised Cameron doesn't know more about this. And spoke about messages she received through the eyes of the being. They were all related to the good and bad uses of technology and how humans could do better. Telepathic images started going across my face. This is Emily talking now. Communication through the eyes. That's all I can really describe it as. It was just image after image after image. One of the other girls standing beside me, she got more communication about the environment, and for me, mine was more communication uses about technology. Now, if you go to YouTube and just look for it, just put Ariel Irua. This is R-U-W-A School, and Dr. John Mack, and you will find the interviews he did with these children, these sweet little kids from this school in Zimbabwe, talking about the experiences they had with when this alien landed in their school playground. She did not. This is the grant now. Trim did not remember any of the specific images except the last images, which was a big explosion. The experience and the second dramatic encounter. A second dramatic encounter with the being 3 years ago in Hamilton, Ontario, has left her shaken. This must be one of the expats, because a lot of the witnesses, they're all in their 20s and 30s now. This was in 1994, this happened when they were little kids. They've grown up, and most of them have left Zimbabwe, because Zimbabwe is an excrement hole, basically. It's an awful place, and anyone who can afford to get out of the country gets out of it. So she's continued to have ET experiences. Following the second encounter, she was suddenly drawn to paint and has done 100 images of alien symbols and messages from the aliens. Right. This is what Trump thinks about nuclear weapons. Trump has exhibited a completely contrary view to this alien position. He has supported a nuclear proliferation policy, stating that he thought more countries should have nuclear weapons, such as Japan, South Korea, and maybe even Saudi Arabia. Has he? This, reasoned Trump, would make the cost of America defending the world less costly. Trump has now denied ever saying this. Actually, I mean, if I recall correctly, what Trump actually said was he opposed he said he was opposing the project for the new American century and its view towards nuclear proliferation. I think that's all he said. He didn't actually say these countries should have nuclear weapons. He just said it wasn't a problem if they developed them, rather than instead America having them all and Israel, which is what PNAC want. So I think this is he's misrepresenting Trump here. In a story by MSNBC, a journalist stated that while Trump was speaking with a foreign policy expert, he asked, "Why can't we use nuclear weapons?" Well, I'd like that put into context, please. Because so far, it appears that Grant Cameron is kind of parroting the mainstream media line on Donald Trump, which is extremely pro-Hillary Clinton, very anti-Donald Trump. Throughout the campaign, they were slagging off Donald Trump for every reason, for anything they could, for any reason. Whereas completely turning a blind eye to everything that was wrong with Hillary Clinton. In a debate hosted by Chris Matthews on the 31st of March, Trump hypothesised about using nuclear weapons. Somebody hits us with an ISIS, you wouldn't fight back with a nuke. Why are we making them? Why do we make them? Well, again, I'd like that put into context, please. Trump is... From what I've seen of Trump, I'll carry on, so I'll say a bit more in a minute. He added that the possible use of nuclear weapons would include Europe, which is a big place. Europe is a big place. I'm not going to take cards off the table. We have nuclear capability. Now, our capability is going down rapidly because of what we're doing. It's in bad shape. And speaking to Mark Halperin at CBS, Trump expanded on nuclear weapons and ISIS. At a minimum, I want them to think maybe we would use it, okay? Like, I want this put into context of what Grant Cameron is saying here. Was this just the the cherry picking quotes that the mainstream media selected from Trump? Because as far as Trump's foreign policy goes compared to Hillary Clinton, it was Hillary Clinton who wants a no-fly zone over Syria, which would mean an inevitable confrontation with Russia. As I explained in the previous film of this, and I've explained in many articles on her Panwo Voice since then. Go to her Panwo Voice, you'll see the things I've said about this. Now, as far as I can tell, actually, by American standards, Donald Trump is something of a pacifist. He actually wants to end, the current US strategy of constabulary interventions in various places around the world. Trump is actually quite keen to end that and to use the armed forces as in accordance with the Kellogg-Briand Pact of 1923, which means basically he would bring the troops home and use them to defend the realm, which is what the armed forces of any nation are for. Rather than having them going all over the world and blowing things up and then coming back in body bags, Trump seems to be in that sense using the armed forces in a very libertarian manner. So I mean, again, I think maybe Grant Cameron is being biased here. I'm not going to read all this actually, because he goes into various. The second part of this is this difference between the aliens and Trump is oneness, and he talks about the very spiritual and God's children, type attitude that various people have towards these. And then he goes on to say about the aliens' idea about oneness and the spiritual evolution of mankind, which people some experience talk about when they meet the spiritually evolved aliens. He says the Trump model of the world is the materialistic evolutionary model represented by the capitalist economic theory. It's a model where things are not one and connected, but separate random objects in time and space. It's a model dominated by competition as opposed to cooperation. This is rape, pillage and steal model, where the one with the most toys, when he or she dies, is considered the winner. Well, the last sentence in that is actually a quote from a near-death experience, a guy who had a spiritual awakening when he was a near-death experience guy. When he had his near-death experience, he had a spiritual awakening after that, and he changed from being very materialistic to being very spiritual. However, the first couple of sentences in that paragraph could have been from the Communist Manifesto. I mean, this is the capitalist economic theory is, you see, in a sense, this is a long subject, but the capitalist economic theory does not actually talk about competition as opposed to cooperation. This is the thing. You should see Stefan Molyneux and his videos on capitalism and the true nature of capitalism. And there's someone called Ayn Rand as well, who's very interesting. I don't agree with everything they say, but they put it they make it very clear that the leftist view of the left-wing view of capitalism is wrong, and that they look at the world we have now and they say, well, the world we have now is capitalism. Isn't it awful? Well, it's not. It's corporate feudalism. It's, in a sense, it's a state plus corporate control of all economic activity. Corporations are not capitalist institutions. They're essentially they're created by state regulation. They're run by a committee, so no one person is responsible. And the shareholders own them, who've generally not even involved in the running of the company. So you could argue that corporatism has more in common with communism than does capitalism. It's a big subject. I don't have time to go into it, but all right. The model extended from individuals to countries by Trump in his America First foreign policy speech. Here we go. My foreign policy will put the interests of the American people and the American security above all else. It has to be first, that will be the foundation of every single decision that I make. And then Cameron goes on. As opposed to the Clinton campaign slogan of stronger together with, oh, God, blimey. Grant, you're shilling for Hillary Clinton here. She should have hired you for her publicity. Let me go on. no, I'm not going to read the rest of this because this is nonsense. Yeah, he talks about. He says a lot of things that I think I've actually looked into, and I cover on my see my videos I made where I cover the election campaign, and various articles I wrote on Herpanwo Voice about this subject, which you can find using the search function if you go to herpanwo-voice.blogspot.com. But basically, he says things about Stephen Bannon, who was called a champion of racial division. Oh, this is, I can't. I'm afraid I disagree so strongly with Grant about his views on Trump versus Hillary that I don't think he's being objective here. I mean, I'll respect Grant Cameron, but this is not really objective. Okay, material possessions. This is part 3. The aliens say, based on the stories told by experiencers who have encountered the aliens and have been on their ships, the aliens don't appear to have anything of physical value. There are no reports of aliens with gold or jewellery. That's not... Well, I've heard of reports of aliens that do. But anyway, Trump says, right, in the Trump worldview, money and possessions are the main measurements of happiness and achievement. Trump defends and plans to extend a world where it is justifiable for 4% of the population of the world to control up to 30% of the world's resources and demand more. Oh, it is a worldview where Trump lives in a 30,000 square foot, $100 million apartment, while 66 million refugees wander the world with no apartment or country to call home. Now this is really anti-Trump rhetoric here that Grant Cameron is giving. Trump actually, he comes across actually as far more human than his rivals. In fact, he comes across as more, he appears to have more humanity than most other political figures that I've seen. I mean, Grant, what do you think of Obama? Do you think from what I see, the measurements of his happiness actually seem to be more his family, his wife, his children, his grandchildren. He has a huge family, and he actually seems more down to earth and more approachable, and he's someone I trust. I mean, you don't know what he's like, you don't know what's inside him. I'm not saying he's perfect. He's probably someone I couldn't get on with, to be honest, but Cameron here he's almost vilifying to this man to the point of demonisation. Okay, political system. Aliens. The description of the alien political system would closely be reflective of an Israeli kibbutz or Hutterite colony. The aliens work in what has been described as a hive environment. Each being on the ship has a job which works to achieve the job at hand. There does not seem to be a class structure. It closely resembles the ideological communist underlying philosophy. From each according to his ability to each according to his needs. You know, I was actually going to quote that famous quotation by Karl Marx, from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. I was actually going to quote that as in a sense to satirise what Grant was saying. But Grant has actually said it himself. The aliens work in a hive environment. There does not seem to be class structure. It does resemble the communist ideal. Israeli kibbutz, and Israeli kibbutz is actually a sort of microcosm of a communist society. But I believe that communism is actually far from being the ideal society. Communism is actually it's actually an embryonic new world order. It's actually the fundamental. I've talked about this before, I'm sure, but it seems to be. To me, it resembles actually the start of the New World Order. Perhaps Marxism was intended to be the movement which will bring about the New World Order before it failed to take over the world, and it became like the divide and rule thing with the Cold War. God, it's a big subject, and I can't go into detail here. I don't have time to go into detail here. And let me get this straight. I'm not some kind of table thumping redneck. I'm not. I'm just saying that that I think he's making a mistake here. I really do. And I mean, again, I think he's showing a lot of hubris when it comes to putting words in the aliens' mouths. Despite the Free study, which I do have respect for Free. I have respect for Mary Rodwell, enormous respect for her. The aliens. Okay. Now, the aliens are without a doubt left-wing socialists and ideological communists. Yeah, well, Tony Topping told me a funny story about. Well, he was on his show. He interviewed George Galloway once, and George Galloway was. I'm digressing here, but George Galloway said he knew like a member of the Communist Party of Great Britain who was into UFOs, but the only one who was. And he did it. He said he was convinced that the aliens were communists and the UFOs were actually created by a communist society because only on other planets where they have high communism is it possible to create something so wonderful as a flying saucer. However, I mean, it's actually if instead of having communism, the economy was put into private hands. Complete private hands in the ultimate expression of capitalism, it would essentially be workers' cooperatives. It wouldn't be massive corporations. This is where Karl Marx got it wrong, and I don't have time to go this in any detail, but I do think that here we go. That there's I do think that Grant Cameron here is being very biased. Now, ecology. This is in number 5. You want to bet this? He's going to say about climate change now, isn't he? Here we go. By far and away, the environment is the biggest difference in the beliefs between Donald Trump and the aliens. And this is something familiar to me, actually, because aliens do talk about the dangers of environmental catastrophe. And it's not just at the Ruhr event. Many, many do. Many people who have contact with aliens are told by the aliens that the Earth is facing an ecological catastrophe because of the activities of humans, and humans need to change their ways. We need to become more environmentally friendly. That's very true. Trump is against laws that protect the environment as he thinks regulations hurt business. No. Trump is very rightly questioning the official story of climate change. That's what it is, okay? And he talks about, and Grant talks on about this. So he predicts that very, very well indeed. Right, sex, number 6. Aliens, even when it appears there is no connection, even when it appears there is a connection, there is not. An example would be that both Trump and the aliens seem to have a great obsession with sex. This is not common. This is not actually something they have in common. Trump has an interest in sex for self-gratification, and the alien obsession with sex seems to be related to reproduction. Well, what about the accusations made against Hillary Clinton, Grant? And I know this is sort of like a cancelling out situation, but he's been very biased. He's been very one-sided. He's parroting the mainstream media's dislike of Trump. He brags about grabbing women by the you know what and stuff like that, and not about Hillary and her appeasement of her husband's sexual impropriety, which I talked about on the previous film. The sole commonality, strangely, about the only minor similarities between Trump and the aliens has to do with their habits and not beliefs. Food and sleep. Alright, here we go. I'm not going to read any more of this. I'm sorry. But will Trump disclose? Here we get to it, Grant. Okay. Donald Trump is a big believer in conspiracies. He is backed by the National Enquirer to the point that they paid $150,000 to kill a story about an affair Trump had with a former Playmate of the Year. There is therefore a chance that he will suddenly reveal something like, "I told you it was a rigged system. Look what I discovered once I gained control." There are a few things that indicate he will do nothing different from the past 13 presidents who have dealt with the issue, either because the president doesn't know or because there are legitimate reasons to cover it up. Firstly, Trump had James Woolsey as his intelligence advisor during his run for president, and Woolsey, as I pointed out in an entire chapter of my Clinton UFO storybook, had his own daylight UFO sightings and is well aware of the situation with the government UFO issue. Despite the fact that Trump had him on his staff, Trump did not suddenly come forward to announce the ET presence. The same goes for the present situation where Trump, as president-elect, has been given the big intelligence briefings on the biggest secrets inside government, including the really big ones that, according to former Vice President Dan Quayle, they never put on paper. Some of these secrets are very unnerving, as the Washington Times pointed out. In 2008, after then President-elect Obama was given one sensitive intelligence briefing at a secure facility in Chicago, he joked, "It's good that there are bars on the windows because if there weren't, I might be jumping out." Despite the briefing, Trump has remained quiet about UFOs and all the other big secrets held by the government. He has not talked about any of them or even hinted at their existence. Lastly, since winning the election, Trump has given an indication that secrecy will be employed by his administration as it is by most White House. By most White House. The reason for this is that secrecy is power. You release what works to your advantage and you bury the mistakes. He has requested top secret security clearances for his family, which will protect what is said between them. This is an extension of the secrecy that Trump used as a businessman when most of the key people who worked for him were made to sign non-disclosure agreements. Even volunteers on the Trump campaign had to agree to a strict 2,270-word non-disclosure agreement which prevented them from criticising Trump, his family or any of his businesses. Grant Cameron. So, despite its optimistic starting point, this is essentially an article of defeat. This is an exercise in defeatism by Grant Cameron, and it is an exercise in bias as well, and what appears to be a very one-sided issue. Despite what I said earlier about how I was pleased that Grant Cameron is writing his own commentary on the WikiLeaks emails, this has made me wonder whether when I read his commentary it's actually going to be of any informational value. It's sad really, because as I said, I respect Grant Cameron. I respect what he does. I respect the good work he's done. For instance, in the various initiatives to do with the petitions and the congressional and the citizens' hearing initiative and things like that. But this is a pretty pointless article he's used here. He's just washing his head at us. He's ranting. He's fed up. He's upset that Hillary didn't win, and he's now just venting his own. This is quite soon after the election. His own basic pessimism and his sense of loss. And that's not helpful. It's not. There's no point in this really. It may make you feel better, Grant, but it's not. It doesn't help matters. Oh dear. Anyway, as far as Trump goes, Grant Cameron does raise some legitimate concerns about Trump's attitude since his campaign, including some of his various double standards. I'm concerned, not for the same reasons as Cameron, but I'm concerned about what Trump is going to do once he's president. For example, there are worrying signs that he's becoming a lot more conventional. He's making noises which indicate that his administration is going to be far less radical and revolutionary than it appeared to be based on his campaign. He's now saying he's going to step back from his issue with Clinton's legality and things like that. So what happened to hashtag lock her up? He's also, in terms of his cabinet, the people he selected, Steve Bannon, I think people have been very unfair to Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is the former editor of Breitbart magazine. But, this thing about expert on racial division, what? That's straight out of some SJW handbook. That is just so unfair. It really is. It is so unfair. When you look at the people who criticise, this obsession with things, people who criticise things like feminism and when Black Lives Matter attack random white people and things like that. I criticise things like that too, and this is essentially what Breitbart has been doing. There's people like Milo Yiannopoulos have been involved in them, and I've listened to what these people have to say, and I think they talk a lot of sense, and I don't think they're haters. I don't think they're nasty. I don't think they're division. They want division. Oh. So, but there are some other people that Trump has gathered around him who I am concerned about, but particularly Mitt Romney. There's John Bolton. Now, John Bolton is a neoconservative. He was part of the Bush team that organised the war on terror. And Trump has said he wants to bring the troops home and things like that. You understand that I am concerned. Despite what I said about Grant Cameron's misgivings, I have my own misgivings concerning Trump regarding that issue. Now, it's too early to say. He's not even president yet. He's not even been inaugurated officially as president, but I am worried that he may turn out to be something of a it may turn out to be something of an anticlimax once he becomes president. He may turn out to be a very different character than he has appeared to be during the campaign. We'll see. That's something I'll have to cover at another time. But anyway, I'm running out of film, so I'm just going to have to change the film chip. I'll be back shortly. What strikes me about what Grant Cameron has written also is there is not one mention of any hope. There's no hope in it. At least Steve's statement after the election is very different. He's actually now urging President Obama to be the disclosure president and for Hillary to help him. Hillary and Podesta have to go to Obama and force him to become the disclosure president before the 6th of January. The 6th of January, I believe, is he said it would be a Friday. So what day is the 6th of January? It is Friday, yes. Friday the 6th of January, yeah. Cameron doesn't mention that. He doesn't even refer to that once, which I think is disappointing. Anyway, on the 28th of November, I think, let's have a look. Hopefully Grant Cameron has gone out, got drunk, gone home, cried his eyes out, lay down on his bed, woken up, nursed his hangover and got on with it. Let's see, because on the 28th of November he wrote this, an article called Trump and the UFO Briefing. Here we go. Because I run the President's UFO website, I have been asked many times if Trump has been given the UFO briefing, and I was even contacted by people who thought they might avoid giving him the briefing. I said Trump probably got the briefing, but now I have my doubts. Well, he said in his previous article, he referred to this, because he said Trump got the briefing from this guy, what's his name? And, it's a just published story by the Washington Post. It has been revealed that President-elect Truman has only had two intelligence... Truman, I think he means Trump. Grant, like I said, he needs to get a proofreader here. Has only had 2 intelligence briefings in the 2 weeks since the election. Mike Pence, on the other hand, has had almost daily briefings. Mike Pence is the vice president elect with Donald Trump. Trump spokesman Kellyanne Conway stated Trump is receiving intelligence info from a number of sources. In some ways, you don't have to ask for intelligence information to get it. If the president doesn't want it, no one's going to force it on him. A similar situation occurred with Reagan. According to CIA History of Briefings, Ronald Reagan, president from 1980 to 88 or something like that. Reagan brought the presidency deep convictions about the key national security issues and felt the need for only limited, very general intelligence information. In the only briefing Reagan took before the election, the CIA described the situation as a circus, where the living room of the Middleburg home, where the sessions was held, was like a chaotic movie set with chairs moving around randomly and people coming and going. CIA participants had the feeling that the Reagan camp had accepted the briefing simply because it had been offered and they had to do it. Another story is about Bill Clinton. In an effort to appease Republicans in Congress, Clinton appointed James Woolsey as his first CIA director. That's the guy Trump, I think that was the guy that he was talking about in the last article, James Woolsey. And Woolsey told me, it wasn't that I had a bad relationship with the president, it just didn't exist. Woolsey didn't deny this and even told Paula Kaufman it was a joke to a small plane that had crashed into the White House in 1994. Remember the guy who in 1994 crashed his plane onto the White House lawn? That was me trying to get an appointment with President Clinton. Ha ha ha. Yeah, according to the Washington Post, after his election in 2008, President Obama took part not only in regular intelligence briefings but also scheduled deep dives on key subjects including Iran's nuclear program and covert CIA operations, including the accelerating campaign of drone strikes in Pakistan. The reason for this bizarre situation may have accounted for by habits and traits that people have pointed out about Trump in the past. One example is the reason that Trump may never face the UFO question from Damon Steer at the Conway, New Hampshire newspaper early in the primary, unlike the other candidates in both parties. Trump did not rent a bus and go... been through this, about where Trump is supposedly this aloof person who flies in his plane and flies out again, has nothing to do with the common man and woman in the street. True. flew in from New York for the events and then flew back to Trump Tower. He made no effort to talk to voters. All right, yeah, we get the picture, Grant. We know you don't like Donald Trump. And he knew more about ISIS than the generals. Yeah, if this analysis is right, Trump will rarely request security briefing because he's already figured out how the world works and is not prepared to listen to the intelligence experts telling him things that oppose his worldview. Ronald Reagan had a similar attitude, stating that he'd get most of his stuff in the briefing from a newspaper. The other possible reason that Trump may be avoiding the briefing was pointed out by Tony Schwartz, who wrote Art of the Deal, the book that made Trump famous as a businessman. Schwartz was with Trump almost full-time for 18 months and learned a lot about him. He described him like a kindergartner who can't sit still in the classroom. He told New Yorker magazine, it's impossible to keep him focused on any topic other than his own self-aggrandizement for more than a few minutes. Schwartz added that Trump's incredibly short attention span leaves Trump a stunning level of superficial knowledge and plain ignorance. He prefers TV when everything comes in small bits, and Schwartz stated in his belief, I seriously doubt that Trump has ever read a book straight through in his adult life. The intelligence presidential briefing takes about 45 minutes and is about 15 to 16 pages for presidents who wish to read it. Both might be too much for Trump to absorb. He thus avoids the briefing, preferring to get his foreign intelligence from CNN and Fox News. Perhaps the DNI, that's the Director of Naval Intelligence, the Director of National Intelligence, will present the national security briefing as videos with narration and music. He's not a big reader. Neither the spokesman for the Director of National Intelligence, which provides the briefing, or the Trump campaign has responded to requests for comment. Oh, please. No. Why don't you give him a chance, Grant? Just give the man a chance. Can't you see that you're being very biased against him? A lot of what you've published here is just it's essentially your own paraphrasing of mainstream criticism of Trump. Trump, as I've said before, is very he's not connected to some of the same power structures that are behind the truth embargo, in my view. This is the point. Trump, as I've said before, there are power structures in this world that keep these secrets from us, whether it's 9/11 truth or something like that, or free energy technology, or the truth embargo on UFOs. These go up very high. They go beyond national governments. They control national governments. They are what Richard Dolan calls the breakaway civilization. They interact with the world as we know it through various organisations such as the George Soros's Freedom Foundation, or whatever it's called, the Open Borders Foundation, the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission. This is why you get the same policies coming out all over the world at the same time from different leaders who supposedly are sovereign to their nations and elected by their people. Hillary Clinton has the whole list. She has a medal table right up her chest of the various organisations like these that she's a member of. She's bought, sold, paid for by the global elite. It's just like her husband. They're a perfect couple. They really are. President Trump is not a part of any of these. Trump is a really remarkable character. Apart from President Dwight Eisenhower, he's the first president ever to be elected who has not run for public office before and has not been elected to public office ever before. In other words, his president is the first political role he wishes to play. He's a businessman who has operated independently to build up his own business empire for his whole life. This is what he's done his entire life. He's taken an interest in politics, but only as it relates to his business. He has planned to run for president for a long time. There's rumours from the early 1980s, and he spoke on the Oprah Winfrey Show about how he wanted to run for president in the mid-1980s. He said this. So he has an interest in politics. He's not what you call... He's not a genial man. He's not someone I could probably get along with. I find that he's brash, he's arrogant. You know, he's You know, but I think he has a level of honesty that is very rare in politicians, and the fact that the whole of the mainstream media was against him, as they were with Brexit and things like that, indicates that what's happened is something that was not meant to happen previously. Okay, it was not meant to happen in terms of the plans for the agenda for the New World Order, which includes a continuation of the truth embargo. As I've said before, something very fundamental has shifted in politics in this year. 2016 has been the most exciting year of my life, and there's been more interesting things happening in politics in the last 6 months than in the rest of my lifetime put together. I've made predictions since I became a tinfoil hat wearing loony conspiracy theorist, whatever you want to call it. I have made predictions because I've been watching the hidden hand and what it does. I've been watching how it operates within the world, and this has allowed me to make predictions. I predicted that Britain would have a terrorist attack similar to 9/11 before the 7/7 bombing actually took place. I did. I think that's just one example. I made predictions at the beginning of this year regarding Britain in the EU. I said Britain would remain in the EU. It would be fixed so that Britain remain in the EU. I also said that Donald Trump would never become president. Hillary was the chosen one. She was going to become president. I haven't deleted any of these things that I've said. Please go to Hapanwo Voice. Check it out, hapanwo-voice.blogspot.com. I mentioned it on early videos at that time period too. I'm sure I must have brought it up in some of the videos on the radio shows I did. hapanwo-radio.blogspot.com. I said Trump's political career would crash. When it didn't, when he got the nomination, I predicted that he would take a walk in the woods and never come back. He'd be in a plane crash. Something would happen to take him off the scene. That never happened, and that did not take place. I was wrong completely on all those predictions. Is this because the hidden hand doesn't exist, or does it mean... I don't think it does. It means basically that the hidden hand seems to have its grip has loosened considerably on the world at a very fundamental level within the last year, which manifested within the last year. This could be the 2012 effect that everyone was looking for. The big change in 2012, the Mayan calendar said everything would change. Well, maybe this is what's changing. If that is the case, then this is the first time I know of in recorded history where there was no sign of the hidden hand operating at all, or very little, or the lowest ever that it has influence. Maybe the reason is that so many things that are unplanned have happened. Trump has become president. We have Brexit. Everything that the elite didn't want has happened. Is because, well, this is where I get into arguments with other conspiracy theorists, because they come to me. I've had a lot of this in the last few weeks and months. And they say, Ben, you fool, you dupe, you actually fallen for this, have you? Honestly, I thought you knew better. Can't you see that Brexit was planned by the elite? Can't you see? Honestly, can't you see that? Oh, let me pull up the article. Yeah, I made an article about this on the Hapanwo Voice. Can't you see, Ben? This is just another deeper level of the conspiracy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is it. Yeah. Can't you? This is just they've got you fooled well and proper. I thought you knew better than that. And this Donald Trump, he's just controlled. He's just another piece of controlled, a controlled political puppet, just like Hillary Clinton, just like all the others. David Icke has taken this line. So has many other people in the movement, in the conspiratorial movement. The problem is, I mean, I would say where's the evidence for that? I mean, as I said, there's distinct reasons why I think Trump is not a control puppet, and I've stated them why I think that is. So this is the problem. I mean, I said this here. Here we go. Yeah. I have had the distinct impression that the hidden hand's grip is weakening this year, especially. Specifically the Brexit situation and Donald Trump becoming the new US president. My predictions were completely wrong on both these events. There are only a few possibilities that can explain this. One is that the current affairs of the world are controlled by the hidden hand. It's just that the hand has achieved such a level of subtlety and cunning that we conspiracy theorists can no longer detect its machinations. I've been fooled, but my tinfoil hat-wearing peers have not. And they've told me so in no uncertain terms. They say, Ben, you nut job, you fool, Trump is controlled. The problem with that theory is that it is unfalsifiable. Any evidence refuting a conspiracy theory is interpreted as nothing more than just another, even craftier manoeuvre by the conspirators. And this is what they're saying has happened this time. Yeah, the other, right, and that means that according to the logic of these people, the New World Order can never be seen to end, because every piece of, if there's no evidence that something's gone wrong with the New World Order, because I would say, based on what I've seen, that Trump and Brexit represent a major snafu in the engine room. At a fundamental level, something has gone wrong with the agenda for the New World Order. And my fellow conspiracy theorists are saying things like, well, that's just proof that they're even more crafty than you think. That their plot has become so devious and subtle that we can no longer detect it. But by that logic, as I said, it's unfalsifiable. The New World Order can never be seen to end. I bet you within two or three centuries into the post-Illuminati world, these people will still be saying, they'll still be hiding behind corners and looking out and saying, God blimey, they're so crafty, aren't they? God, I mean, basically, the New World Order will never end, according to these people. Okay. The other possibility is that the premise of the source article is correct. That's this article I wrote about, okay, saying that there is no hidden hand. Maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe there's been no. Maybe I've been fooling myself for the last 20 years or whatever. I've been looking into this. I've been doing it properly since 2006 or so. So basically, this is 10 years I've been a conspiracy theorist now, a serious conspiracy theorist. In this case, I've been wasting my time in delusion for the last 2 decades. Based on what I've learned, I honestly don't think so. But there is a third possibility. Could this be springtime in Narnia? Please, you've got to read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis to understand that reference. By that I mean that the power of the Illuminati is truly crumbling at its most fundamental level. The reason the power structures of the world are behaving so haphazardly in doing things like allowing Trump to become president and allowing British people to vote ourselves out of Europe is because they haven't had a call from head office for a very long time. They've been on the phone saying, Illuminati, Illuminati, help us, please, where's the Illuminati? Illuminati, where? They're not answering, what do we do? The Illuminati are not answering us, what? Oh my God. And I'm not saying that this is the end of the New World Order, but maybe this is the beginning of the end. I mean, this can only be good news for us. Now, I've always said that, I mean, this doesn't mean it's all, we're going to wake up and it's going to be like priests, all going to be priests of High Atlantis tomorrow. We're not. Okay, if this is the beginning of the end of the New World Order, then yes, we will have disclosure, we'll have UFO disclosure. My book, Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, shameless plug, available at all good bookshops now, is about this very thing. The path to disclosure is not as simple as people like Stephen Bassett and Grant Cameron think it's going to be. It's going to be tortuous, it's going to be twisted, and it's going to be very, very long. And the world is not going, we're not going to wake up suddenly and say, we're free of the New World Order, isn't it wonderful, everyone? We can go back to Atlantis, it's like returning to the Garden of Eden. No, we're going to writhe and groan like a drug addict in shock withdrawal. There's going to be a very turbulent transitional period between the world we're in now and the post-Illuminati era. And it's not going to be easy for any of us. I don't know how long that period will be, but this could be, all I'm saying is this is good news. This could be the first time ever that is a sign that something really has gone wrong with the agenda and we're really turning the tables. I mean, you know that song by Tracy Chapman, Don't You Know I'm Talking About a Revolution? And she says, one of the lines in it goes, And finally the tables are starting to turn. We're talking about a revolution. Finally the tables are starting to turn. Maybe that's it. Maybe that is what's happening. And of course the doom addicts won't have it. I'm just being hopelessly naive. And so they slap each other's backs, and they think, look how superior we are to people like Ben, because we're so hopelessly pessimistic. We can, you know, we're wearing our bravery on our sleeves. But look, I'd just like to ask you guys, all right, if you don't believe this is springtime in Narnia, then by what criteria would you say that it was springtime in Narnia? Well, what I mean by that is, if you believe that all this evidence I presented to you that the New World Order is failing is not true, then what evidence would convince you? Or are you really going to be sitting around in a circle on the internet in the post-Illuminati era, convinced you're still in the New World Order? It's just the whole world around you is just another smokescreen. It's just another higher, deeper level of the conspiracy. Because if that's not the case, then you need to define where the cut-off point is. What evidence would convince you? What would falsify your hypothesis? Where you say, okay, Ben's right, and we are at the end of the New World Order. And this can only be good news. And I don't like... John Cameron really has done himself a disservice. He really has. Stephen Bassett at least is picking himself up and getting back in the saddle. But Grant Cameron is just washing it. This is just basically a wailing lament. A 20,000 word wailing lament. That's all it is. He said nothing positive at all. And I just hope whatever it is, Grant, just go out and get drunk, for God's sake. Get it out of your system. And then come back and write something a little bit better. We'll see what happens anyway. As I said, it's not over. I mean, there's signs that Trump is becoming more conventional, is becoming more mainstream, like I said, and we won't know whether it's true or not for a while. He's a devious chap, is Trump. He's someone I wouldn't share a secret with him. I wouldn't trust him with a confidence. I don't believe he's honest in the sense that he is open with what he does. I think he's as crafty as any of the others. I'm not saying that Donald Trump is on our side. All I'm saying is he's not on theirs. In that way, he's very similar to Vladimir Putin. And only time will tell whether this is the beginning of the end or not, or whether Trump might even be the disclosure president. In which case, Grant Cameron, what are you going to say then? But I will remind, even if you'll probably delete those articles, but I will remind you of them, mate. I will. I will say, look, this is what you said, Grant. This is what you said. No to worry. I still respect you, Grant Cameron. I really do. But, you know, this is just wrong. Anyway, this is probably going to be the last UFO Disclosure 2016 video that I do. The next video in this series will be UFO Disclosure 2017, which I'll do after the new year. Unless we get disclosure this Friday or something, you never know. You never know. In which case, I will make another video about that, of course. And my disclosure champagne is ready, it's waiting, it's under my bed. I'll pop the cork on camera. In the meantime, this is not my last video before Christmas. I hope to do another comments reply video before then, and I'll talk to you then. But if you missed that one, I just want to say to everyone who's watched, and everyone who's commented, and everyone who's supported me and shared my videos, thank you very much for it. I appreciate everyone who takes an interest in what I do. And I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I hope you will continue to enjoy the Hapanwo TV and all the other Hapanwo things that I do, Hapanwo Radio, Hapanwo Voice, and of course my books. Don't forget to buy my book, Roswell Rising, a Novel of Disclosure, which talks about the things, it's basically about the things I bring up in these videos in a fictional format. I hope you will enjoy that too. So, as I always say, take care of each other and yourselves, as Jerry Springer says. And don't have too many mince pies or brandy. Just enough to say I've had fun. And remember, New Year, be careful with those fireworks. Thank you for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order.